Nippon Mehta, who has come from US to specifically, address us, and both these speakers are very, eminent speakers, and we will really enjoy listening to them. Then after that, we do have our Rotary internal business matters, 5 years financial forecasts. And we have Polio updates, and we have Toronto convention promotion, and of course the final session will be President and Chair of Foundation will be talking to us, about their impressions on this institute. And my only request is just be inside the hall for the next 3 hours, so that we conclude this institute in a very good note. With this, over to Samir. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Convener Director Bhaskar. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for General Session 6. And to chair General Session 6, please put your hands together and welcome Basque Rotary International Director Yashpal Das. Good morning, PRID YP Das. We also have 2 dignitaries with us for this session.
And in order to reach out to as many as they can in this world, they also need partnerships. And we have today 2 very eminent speakers who are going to share their thoughts with you. They'll of course be appropriately introduced to you through an audiovisual. But very briefly, Dr. Kumar Raja, he is seated here. Nippon Mehta will be coming in another 5 minutes. I believe he is having his breakfast and he should be here any moment. Dr. Kumar Raja is a qualified medical doctor and a management strategist. He runs several pharmaceutical enterprises. He is also a very dynamic mentor who inspires by walking the talk. Dr. Kumar Raja is the Chief Executive Officer of the Secretariat of Empowerment of Indian Entrepreneurs. He will now, after being introduced, will share his thoughts on leveraging strategic partnerships. May we have the audiovisual of Dr. Kumar Raja?
Dr. A.T. Kumar Raja, Director, Economic and Human Capital Development, Socio-Economic Development of Indian Community Unit, SEDIC, Jabatan Perdana Menteri, qualified with his medical degree MD in 1998, and then went on to specialize and complete his obstetrics and gynecology by obtaining the membership of the Royal College of Obstetrics and Gynecology in 2005. Since then, he has also completed his MBA specializing in strategic management from Maastricht of the Secretariat for Empowerment for Indian Entrepreneurs, Prime Minister's Department, and now a Director of Economic and Human Capital Development in SEDIC, which is the pivotal unit for implementing the Prime Minister himself. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. A.T. Kumararaja.
Good morning. Vanakkam, namaskaram and selamat datang to Kuala Lumpur. I was here very much earlier, and I think past District Governor Rajaram was trying to contact me for the last 2 days and asking me what time I would be arriving. I found it a bit peculiar because I was always wondering why would I need to be invited. But I realized once I crossed the Sunway Sunway Grand Ballroom, I realized I'm more or less in South India, if not in the South Indian continent. Thank you for having me here, and that was a pretty nice video. Thanks to Google, I think I never gave all those pictures to them. Again, past RI Director, Mr. Yashpal, who had introduced me earlier, past Rotary International President, Mr. Ravindran, who's the reason why I'm speaking to all of you all, past District Governor Rajaram, and Governor and past Rotary International Director, Mr. Bhaskar, convener for this Rotary Institute. I was given a topic among the couple of topics I was asked to choose from to speak about leveraging and strategic partnership. Now, I was always wondering why I was given a particular choice on the topic, and that has probably got to do with the kind of work that I do. Now, it may have not been very clear in that couple of slides, which is earlier. Now, to give you a perspective of where I come from and what I actually do, I'll do that once this starts working. Yeah. Now, that's basically my life before 2012, right? And I'm very confident of using this picture because one, this particular hall is very memorable to me because this is where my wedding dinner took place, exactly on the 7th of July, 2003. And my wife is sitting here, so I can safely use this picture, with permission though. That's exactly what I was doing. This is my team, a part of my team, which was in Abbott, and we were doing the largest healthcare franchise in the country. We were doing close to 100 million ringgit turnover, and I was not only the medical director, but also the franchise head for this. So I was partially commercial with the medical background. So this was in the days in Abbott. And moving on from there, I decided to leave government practice after 10 years of doing service to king and country. And when I moved on from government service in 2007, I ventured out into pharmaceuticals. I ran my own company, which I still continue to run until today. And somewhere in 2009, 2010, I started embarking on the Indian Chambers, which is the largest national chamber in this country. And with a little bit of experience there, in 2012, we started forming what was actually the Secretariat for Empowerment of Indian Entrepreneurs. Now, the history behind that, again, I was speaking to some of you all outside there, and I realized some of you all have been in this country about 30 years ago. If 30 years ago you had come here, this was my Prime Minister, right? Tun Mahathir Mohamad, who actually ruled the country for about 23 years. I had the opportunity, and some call it a dubious opportunity, to have worked with such a gentleman, but this was during the time when he was just about retiring in 2002. I was what I'll call a rapporteur for him when he started doing the International Peace Forum in this country. And I've also had another chance to work with the next Prime Minister who came after Tun Mahathir, which is Tun Abdullah Badawi, who lasted a very short period of time, who was the watershed as far as Malaysian politics is concerned. It was only in 2008 that the ruling government of Malaysia, after 55 years, they actually lost the two-third majority. It was during his time that that disruption took place. For 50 years, nobody could shake the ruling government. They've always had about 80% of the seats in the, what you will call the Lok Sabha, which is the Dewan Rakyat here, which is in the parliament, out of 222 seats. Easily 200, 190 will be in the hands of the ruling government. It is during Patla's time, or Tun Badawi's time, that we actually, the government lost that thing. And if any of y'all had come on the 25th of November, which was I think about 5 days after many of y'all arrived in Kuala Lumpur, it was the 10th anniversary of the Hindraf Rising. Now the Hindraf Rising was what was again another milestone in the Malaysian politics, not only in the Indian politics, and many of y'all would have probably read about it. It was during this Hindraf rally, which brought out about close to 100,000 or 1 lakh Indians onto the streets of Kuala Lumpur on a Sunday, kind of changed the whole perception game of this government. And it was in the next general election, which was held in March 2008, on the 3rd of March 2008, that actually the ruling government lost their majority. And it was in 2009 that this gentleman, who was then the Deputy Prime Minister, became the Prime Minister. Now, in 2012, when we formed the Secretariat for Empowerment of Indian Entrepreneurs, there was this perception issue that we needed to correct. This perception issue was the Indians, which comprise the 3rd largest Indian ethnic group in this country, which is about 2.1 million population of about 30 million Malaysians. This 7% Malaysian Indian population had a perception issue. There was this strong rooting towards India for many Malaysians. We all are 3rd generation Indians in this country. Me, my wife, or I will consider myself 2.5, not 3rd generation, because my mother, until she passed on, was actually very much an Indian citizen. She refused to take up the Malaysian citizenship. But my dad was very much Malaysian. So we are 3rd generation here. I'm from a small town called Mannargudi. Anybody who comes from Tamil Nadu realize Mannargudi has become absolutely popular after the Mannargudi Mafia changes that happened in Tamil Nadu Legislative Assembly. My wife is from Madurai. This is where I think past district governor Rajaram comes from. This rooting was something that we were trying very hard to have, but also trying to have a very Malaysianized identity. It was the legacy of the Indians in this country where we tend to have very much, although if you say it in Tamil, Sethula or Kale, Athula or Kale. It is trying to both be very much Malaysian without giving the roots up in India. And that was the perception issue that we actually had. And I was sharing with somebody outside here, among the Indian diaspora all over the world, it is only in Malaysia that we still have Tamil schools as a medium of instruction. We have 540 Tamil schools at primary level, which teaches primary education using Tamil as a medium of language. But there is a gap moving from that primary to secondary, but that's a long-standing issue. We're trying to have established a Tamil secondary school. But to me, again, there needs to be a trade-off in terms of trying to be Malaysian first and Indian next. But anyway, that 3 things that Indians in this country were rooted on, which was temples, Tamil schools, and toddy shops. I'm not sure if you know what toddy shops are. Right? I'm sure you know, right? And from 3 T's, temples, Tamil schools, and toddy shops, Indians were trying to migrate to the next stratosphere, which is the 3 E's. Education, employment, entrepreneurship. Education, employment, entrepreneurship in that specific order. And it was in 2012 when I had an opportunity to break this momentum in government, when temples were fairly taken care of. You could see quite a number of them on the way from your airport to here. There's about close to 10,000 temples in this country. In fact, if you look at per capita, we have more temples than Muslims have mosques in this country. Most of them unregistered anyway. Because we, again, if you're Hindu, you tend to pray at anything and call it a temple. And Tamil schools were well taken care of. Like I said, we have 540 Tamil schools. But entrepreneurship was something which was not very much in the limelight yet. So in 2012, we decided to do something about it. And if I would give you an idea of why strategic partnerships work, it was in 2012, to give you a snapshot of what was happening then, we had only about 4,212 Indian entrepreneurs assisted by the government to the tune of 34 34.5 million ringgit. Now, I would not want to translate that to US dollars. That's about 8 million US dollars. Now, this 34.5 million ringgit had reached out to about 4,212 Indians at that point in time. The idea is, can we have a game changer? Can we have something to assist these Indian entrepreneurs? Can we have a modality or a business model that will create this gap that was already there, to bridge this perception gap from the government? Could we do something? So then we formed a secretariat, which was basically directly reporting to the Prime Minister as a strategic unit. And I was looking for a good model to work with. If this picture tells you anything, basically there is a Japanese concept called pokoyoko. Pokoyoko means to do it right. There is only one way to put the USB port. You could try any way. You could still come from California, as my next eloquent speaker is from. But even if you come from California, there's only one way you could put in the USB port. You cannot put the USB port upside down, right? So that USB port concept of doing it right and trying to have equality against equity. Now, this was the fight. The idea of trying to have equality and also trying to increase the Malaysian Indian equity within the economic cake. Now, like I said earlier, we are 7% of the population. We have about 1.3% of the economic cake and dwindling down fast in 2012. But there is again this. The equality, the equity leads to reality. Now, the reality game is simply this. In entrepreneurship, unfortunately, there cannot be a level playing field. In education, it can be merit-based. But when it comes to entrepreneurship, it cannot be so much merit-based. It is, if you have finite amount of resources, your best bang for the buck will come from the top 20%. There is no social equitable distribution in terms of trying to justify why, if you have $1 million ringgit grant from the government, you should be able to give out to 10 entrepreneurs which apply for it. Instead, you are better off giving it to the 2 top entrepreneurs who would probably do very well with that. Again, entrepreneurship was a different game. So there was equality, equity, and reality, and that was how we actually went on to do a lot of our work. Again, this is my team in Seed at that time, was trying to do more with less. We had a small team of 3 people when we started in 2012. As we speak now, we have about close to 50 odd people working under this strategic unit. We were looking for that new value chain. I didn't have to go very far. This I copied from BCG's matrix. But if you don't go very far, you'll actually meet this gentleman. How many flew Air Asia from India? Yeah, I'm sure you paid a lot for it, isn't it? Right. So Air Asia, this gentleman in the middle of me and my friends is actually Tony Fernandez. This was taken in 2004. I met Tony about last month at another event and actually shared with him that picture and said, look, I look very different there. I said, yes, you look very much thinner there, and I look half your size now. This was Tony last month. And again, if you use a business model that Tony has actually done, some sort of a cookie cutter approach in terms of trying to fly an airline, and it's been very, very successful in this region in terms of trying to get the lowest mileage in terms of cost per mile in terms of flying, and I think they've done very, very well. It was during these ideas that we actually picked up from a lot of these people, and these strategic partnerships that we forged at that point in time was also very much technology based. Now, this is work that I did with Accenture in Singapore, and if you could figure out what's on the picture, it is actually a Google Glass. This was the first version which was made available in Southeast Asia. Accenture had actually done some work on it, and I was assisting them on something. And this was the first Google Glass which was made available. The only problem with this Google Glass is the battery only lasts you for 45 minutes. So that issue, once resolved, I'm sure this will become mainstream commodity at some point in time. Now, again, we were trying to do this disruption amongst what was already this Industrial Revolution 4.0 story, and the idea of getting everything done in a very short span of time. Now, again, this picture I borrowed from another article that I've always quoted, and saying, this is again, I suppose, Rotary to some extent. Again, Rotary, being 100 odd years, is again grappling with the idea of trying to be sustainable, still relevant to the youth of today. I've been a Rotarian for the last 4 years or so. I've been a past president. In the last 4 years, at every Rotary event, I've never failed a speaker or a past district governor or a past Rotary International president speaking about trying to stay relevant to the youth of today. But somehow I feel we have hit the ceiling in terms of trying to reach out. So the number of 1.2, 1.3 million doesn't really change. As much as we get new Rotarians every year, the attrition rates keep going, so there is some sort of a balancing out. We have hit the ceiling in terms of trying to figure out, can we be relevant? And I suppose this picture puts in the fact that if we still keep using the old business model of trying to reach out and trying to attract the new, we're probably not going to get any differing results in the very near future, unless we have been able to condense everything in a very short period of time. Now, if these numbers make any sense, actually any market leader of those years before the dot-com boom in the 1990s was market leader for 19.9 years. Today, the number is less than 5 years. No product, no industry, no market leader can sustain at the top for more than 5 years. And that's reality of business. I was listening to Bloomberg yesterday. Uber, this is the Uber office in KL anyway. We are working with them on something. Uber has got a $48 billion US valuation. And they are bleeding every month $500 million US. The last quarter, they reported 1.5 billion losses. They have never made money from day one, but they still have a $48 billion valuation. Hilton took 50 years to reach that kind of valuation. They have assets to back it. Uber has not even a single car under its name. All their cars are owned by us. Right. But they still have the valuation. Now, it is amongst this that we'll have to put into perspective what we are trying to do. And again, social media, this is the Facebook office in Singapore. At that time, Malaysia was not big enough. This was 3 years ago. They have just established a rep office here in Kuala Lumpur. 3 years ago, Facebook never even took us seriously, Malaysians. Only last year they established an office. This was the Facebook office in Singapore, which is, again, we are trying to work with. Now, why I say all this is because it is time that I put up this in my Twitter account, and I got into trouble for this. I said it's time we stop working for the committees and start working for the community. Because I realized a lot of work that we were doing at some point in time was to appease the bosses, to appease the district governors, I suppose, if you look at it in a Rotary concept, or appease your Rotary Club president in terms of what's supposed to be done and what should be done. And I think this kind of got me into a little bit of trouble at some point in time, even in my unit, and said, were you trying to send a message to us? I said, no, but I was just trying to say something. But usually I do this while I'm driving. I wanted to see whether all this led to a game changer. I'll come to my topic in a while. I still haven't arrived at my topic, just giving you a preamble. But all that work, that new business model that we wanted to do, that new engagement that we wanted to have, and that trust that the government feels that this new approach to an age-old problem of trying to bridge a perception gap for a minority community in this country actually bore a lot of fruits. Because if you see, again, it is not, we had the pleasure of hosting Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Malaysia 2 times in the last couple of years. And I can tell you the security is enormous. It's, I mean, you could literally put the White House to shame in terms of the security that surrounds Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But this was our Malaysian Prime Minister over a cup of what is called teh tarik, which is similar to the masala tea which you see outside there, right? In a not so posh restaurant about 15 kilometers outside of KL. The whole bill for us was about 200-300 ringgit. We just paid for the table surrounding us so that also they also feel comfortable. This was basically bringing the Indian entrepreneurs close to the Prime Minister and kind of bridging that gap. So one of the approaches I always used is always tell your boss what's really happening. Don't give him a perception that everything is hunky-dory well. If you tell him that, look, there are issues, there are areas that we're doing well, but there are issues that you must address, this led to a lot of changes. Now, this particular program, which cost me about 300 ringgit, led to a major change in terms of funding in the immediate next year. I'll show you the results in a while. So not only for micro entrepreneurs, we could do this even for small and medium enterprises. In India, you call them MSMEs, right? So these MSMEs, again, in this country, we've got a very small number of MSMEs. The number is actually 9,643 Indians who own MSMEs here. About 3,400 of them are doing very well. This 3,400 need some sort of a government assistance, and this was one particular event that again we hosted with the Prime Minister in attendance. Again, a lot of these events we tend to, like I said, do more with less. It tends to be a very small, without all the fanfare, without all the circus, without a lot of money, but a 1 hour, 2 hour event which is very well coordinated, just to give him an idea of what's really happening on the ground. And those yielded very good results. Because what you see on the left side of the graph was the before, the 4,212 and 34.5 million ringgit. In the next 5 years, we have done 1.3 billion ringgit and reaching out to 30,000 entrepreneurs. So the before and after picture is 4,000 against 30,000. 34.5 million against 1,300 million ringgit. So that's about, that's about 80 times if you look at it in terms of numbers, and about 300 times if you look at it in terms of entrepreneurs that have been assisted. Now, that game changer only happened because there was a dedicated approach, there was a strategic partnership that we forged with a lot of institutions. We had 16 ministries that I had to make headway with. 65 different government agencies that I had to forge an alliance with. And only because of certain approaches or a disciplined way that we approached this problem, that we've been able to actually deliver the goods. Because it is the same government, it is the same business, it is the same structure in terms of funding. We never asked for dilution of the criterias. All we asked for is re-engineering of the process. So one of the things that we actually did was we kind of changed the concept of young entrepreneurs. Now again, government was trying at that time, and I'm sure they're trying very hard now, to reach out to young entrepreneurs. But we actually put it in perspective and says, look, it is not only the young entrepreneurs, the below 40 entrepreneurs, it is also the young enterprises. Only when that guy reaches very late 30s or early 40s, he realizes there needs to be a second income, there needs to be something a lot more sustainable in the future. It is during this transition period, it happens here very much, and I'm sure the case is not very different even in India or Sri Lanka or in the Indian subcontinent. That change of between young enterprises and young entrepreneurs was a big game changer for us, and that way we've been able to change a lot of those things. Now, not only we were very successful in terms of reaching out, we also made sure there was a fair balance. 63% of all funding that goes out from Malaysian government out to micro entrepreneurs in this country goes out to women. Not only they have proven to be better paymasters, they are also very much more disciplined in terms of how they have approached the business. And we have actually seen, if you look at data, shows that women have actually done much better for every single ringgit that we have been able to spend from the government of Malaysia. So this was an event where we had we use the word First Lady of Malaysia, but it's basically the Prime Minister's wife. And like I said, that particular 300 ringgit teh tarik session, it was in that session that we actually told the Prime Minister there needs to be a lot more funding given to women. It was in the next immediate budget in 2017 that we have 100 million ringgit actually allocated. Now, the another benefit, or I would say the ancillary benefit to this particular thing was in Rotary. While I was my club president in 2017, the last Rotary year, we had a government allocation of about 500,000 ringgit towards our dialysis center. And that kind of started that ball rolling for a very long standing vision of our club, which is a club of Rotary Club of Greater Kuala Lumpur. We wanted to have this vision of starting a dialysis center, but you needed that baseline funding. And it was during this discourse that we actually on the side slipped in this request, and it was very well reciprocated. Government gave 500,000 ringgit towards the Rotary Club of Greater Kuala Lumpur, and eventually at a couple of other events we've been able to match that 500,000 to make it 1 million ringgit. So by early next year we will have our dialysis center starting to operate on a partnership model with the government. That's basically was my introduction. Now this is basically the only slide that I have to present as far as today's context is concerned. This strategic partnership basically must be spelt on these 7 pillars, I would say. One, the correct partner. Because if Rotary or if your club is to move forward, you must have some sort of a new market approach. There cannot be doing the same and expecting different results. You will just not go, because we have maxed out in terms of our approach, our resources, our people, our reach out, our relevancy towards the market space is about maxed out. If we need to get newer people on board, if we look at newer resources, then there's some sort of a partnership must be established. One, if I could borrow HSBC's tagline, the world's local bank. So that local expertise, that local resources, that local reach, that local credibility is what Rotary needs. So selection of the correct partner, engagement that must be continuous, and the selection of the key point person. I did allude to the fact that I had 16 ministries and 65 agencies to work with. It is not because of the love lost between us that we have been able to deliver. It is because at every of the 16 and 65 institutions, we were able to identify a single point person, somebody higher up in that C-level space, right? So it has to be a CEO or a deputy CEO or a chief operating officer or somebody of that C-level space who was our point man. That point person is the one delivered our goods. So if there was an issue, it is that point man that delivered us. And in any strategic partnership, if it needs to work, you need to have your point man. Second, the common denominator between that agency, that institution, and us. There must be some sort of a win-win approach. You has to be passionate for both us and them. Like in the dialysis center that we wanted to establish, government is spending a lot of money in trying to spend for dialysis in this country, but they are unable to get good partners to work with them, partners that can bring some sort of resources. So even when we pitched our dialysis center from our club, we said we would bring in X amount of dollars, government must reciprocate us Y amount of dollars. So that matching only happened because there was some sort of a common goal, some common denominator between these two agencies, and that really worked very well. And eventually to have very clear execution plan and engagement and a very clear timeline. Now, as much as I see a lot of people in this room are actually on an average more than 60. In your era, marriages last forever. But in today's era, if it lasts beyond the marriage date, you already overstayed your welcome. Right. So there must be a very clear timeline on this strategic partnership. It cannot be forever. There must be a clear entry point and a clear exit point. At this particular point in time, this project that we're embarking on would become sustainable on its own right. May it be financially, may it be otherwise, but there must be clear entry and exit points, and that is the only way this can work. If it is going to be a perpetual agreement, a perpetual partnership, that's really not going to work very well, simply because there is no urgency to deliver. A timeline would ensure that we start working backwards and saying, okay, look, we need to deliver milestone A, B, C, D by this point in time. If it is going to be perpetual, we have all the time in the world to actually deliver. So that timeline, and end of the day, you must be able to deliver. Unfortunately, many partnerships don't simply work because though the going in intention was very noble, very right, but it is after that we fail in terms of delivery, and that's basically why many of these strategic partnerships has not worked. So if I could just sum up what I was supposed to be speaking about, it was actually past Rotary International President Ravindran who actually asked me to share the work that we did. So I wanted to put it in perspective of where the Malaysian Indian community was in 2012 and the good work that me and my team has been able to do in terms of assisting this many Indian entrepreneurs, and some of the learnings that we had from there can be used to in the Rotary space or in the Rotary world in trying to forge some new alliances, because though Rotary is in the top 3, top 5 international institutions of humanity, but I suppose there needs to be some sort of an engagement model that keeps us sustaining that top position, because without that it is going to be very hard to sustain in the new world order. And the new world order, there is absolutely no loyalty to institutions, there is absolutely no loyalty to the club, there is no prestige in terms of a particular club. All that is basically dwindling down. The guys who are in the millennials subscribe very little to those concepts, and they have moved very far away from wanting to stay on to a particular cause. So they need to be sexy in some way, and that sexiness needs to be sustained. Right, that's basically my last slide, and that was again one of the pictures here. You can take selfie with your Prime Minister. It's quite encouraged. Yep, that's my topic for the day. May the Force be with you now. If anybody hasn't watched Star Wars now, December 14th, right, The Last Jedi. Again, why I put up this slide is sometimes in any partnerships, there must be a win-win. And even if you look at, if anybody is anybody a Star Wars fan here? Sir, you must have watched all the 7 series like me, right? Yeah. So anybody else hasn't watched Star Wars? Nobody else? Very few people watch movies nowadays, isn't it? If anybody watch Vivegam, Ajit's movie, it defies all logic, isn't it? It's like Avengers on steroids. Now, if you look at the Star Wars movies in the last 3 series as such, it is very hard to make out who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. Right? Even the next Last Jedi is supposed to be a question of who's switching over to which side. So in any strategic partnership, there is no good guy, bad guy. There is always, there's 2 sides. Right? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kumar Raja. Friends, all of us sitting in this auditorium, at some point of time, we have to motivate Rotarians on service projects. And we want to inspire them with thoughts. We have an individual here with us, Nippon Mehta. I don't know how many of you know him, but I have Googled off and on, and it's a free subscription, but every day you will get an email and it says daily good. I don't know, anybody subscribes to that? Daily Good? No. You get very inspiring messages, very inspiring stories on service, on, all kinds of acts of kindness. Nippon Mehta, you know what his high school, during his high school, what was his goal? It was either to become a tennis professional or a Himalayan yogi. Instead, by the third year of his computer science and philosophy degree at Berkeley in the United States, he started his career with Sun Microsystems. Not happy by the dot-com greed of the late 90s, he went on to explore giving with no strings attached. Nippon, along with his friends, runs an organization known as Service Space that has delivered millions of dollars in service for free. He will be sharing his thoughts with us on designing for service. Can we have his audiovisual introduction, please?
Nippon Mehta is the founder of Service Space, an incubator of projects that works at the intersection of volunteerism, technology, and gift economy. What started as an experiment with 4 friends in the Silicon Valley has now grown to a global ecosystem of over 500,000 members that has delivered millions of dollars in service for free. Nippon has received many awards, including the Jefferson Award for Public Service, Wavy Gravy's.
That's good. We'll leave it at that.
Let's welcome him with a round.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here amongst a room full of people who love giving. So I want to share, well, there's more things going on. Should I click next to go to my original slide, or do you want to? Aha, okay, over to me. I like it. Lesser the introduction, the better, because then your words speak for yourself. Or rather, your work speaks for yourself. This was a billboard, so I want to share some insights. Dr. Khanna showed this slide from Accenture of early adopters, then majority, and then the laggards. This is the kind of stuff that's early adopters, but I hope we can all work together to make this a majority. So I want to share a few thoughts, a little bit about my journey, and then 4 insights that perhaps may be helpful for you. This was a billboard. I come from the Silicon Valley. This was actually a billboard for, I think, like 2 days, and then they shut it down because they realized you can't commercialize the Dalai Lama. But I love the phrase. It says, be selfish, be generous. And on the face of it, if you give, we tend to think, well, if I have 5 pencils and I give you 3, I have 3 less. How is it in my interest to be giving to other people? And I think that's a very external view, but what starts to happen when you take an internal view, when you see what happens within you, and now there's a lot of neuroscience behind this, that actually I may be giving you 2 pencils, so I have 2 less pencils, but I'm getting a lot of oxytocin, I'm getting a lot of serotonin, I'm getting a lot of dopamine release, I'm feeling a lot more connected, and there's this deep sense of satisfaction that ends up creating its own ripple effect. So as soon as you look at the inside, this makes a whole lot of sense. Be selfish, be generous. It is in our own interest to give. This much I think most of us here understand. But what I want to talk about today is also a little bit about how we can deepen in that journey. Right? What is the sort of 4G? I guess now you have 5G versions, right? What is the 4G version of giving? Right? The very low bandwidth is sort of the sympathy model. I have, you don't have, let me give to you. I don't know if you've ever been on the receiving end. It doesn't feel all that great. And even if you've been on the giving end, you can only go so far with sympathy. If you take it a step further, much more higher bandwidth is sort of this friendly giving, right? This empathetic giving, that I feel your pain. Right? But even beyond that, I think there's another stage, which is where the true power of generosity is unleashed, which is really a shift to compassion. Compassion says, not only do I feel your pain, I'm going to act as if it was my pain, and I'm going to be in service to you. It changes the whole game. Mother Teresa, there was a beautiful anecdote that I was just sharing, which I really love. One of my friends was with Mother Teresa, and she was volunteering. She was young at the time, and one of these big donors comes to visit Mother Teresa. They see the place, they have a great time, and then at the end they say, hey, I want to take a photo with Mother Teresa. So, okay. So they go take a photo, they line up, and the photographer clicks and he says, oh, that's not quite right. We need, this is a very important person, we want a perfect photo. He must have gotten those instructions. He says, can you move a little bit to the left? Mother Teresa says, okay, I'll move a little bit to the left. Then he clicks another photo, still not good enough. Can you move your head just a little bit up? I mean, this is like you're telling Mother Teresa, you're lucky to just get a moment with her, and this person is like trying to rearrange her physical body. And then my friend is getting pretty upset, and then what happened next, my friend was just furious watching this. They go and they say, it's still not quite perfect, and they start moving her face around. And my friend, watching this, she was young at the time, looking at this, saying, oh my God, like you're objectifying such a beacon of compassion and kindness in the world, right? How can you do that? But Mother Teresa just went with it. And so after they all left, she goes up to Mother Teresa, she says, Mother, why didn't you say anything? That was so wrong. And she said one sentence that changed my friend's life. She says, my dear, there are many forms of poverty, right? There are multiple forms of poverty that, yes, the child who is left without his parents at my doorstep is a kind of poverty, and I receive them with a great amount of love. And here is this person that has a lot materially, but has a certain kind of bankruptcy on the inside. And I'm happy. If you want to move my face around, if that's going to support you, I'm happy to do that. Okay. So Mother Teresa said there are many forms of poverty, but I think we can flip it around and turn it into something even more profound, and it's sort of contrapositive, which is that there are multiple forms of wealth. Right? There are multiple ways to give. I learned this on my walking pilgrimage in 2005. My wife and I, we sold everything we had. Right? I was born in Gujarat, grew up in the United States, and at some point we were running this organization and it was doing great things. But a part of us said that we're doing this to become better human beings. And so how do you know that you're continuing to transform yourself? And so we decided to go on this open-ended walking pilgrimage. We went to the Gandhi ashram. We got rid of everything we had, few boxes at my parents' house, went to the Gandhi ashram, and we said we're going to walk south. We're going to eat whatever food is offered, sleep wherever place is offered. We started from the Gandhi ashram in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. What we learned along the way is we met people like Udeshi Kaka and his wife. Right? On the way, these people had nothing materially, but they had so many other forms of wealth. And so many of them, this is not to glorify people who don't have anything, but there are so many of them that have incredible amount of wealth that I was learning from constantly, like Udeshi Kaka and his wife. They borrowed food to feed us because they said, you are like God. And there was nothing special about us. They just thought that anyone who comes to their doorstep is like God because they said, we believe in Atiti Devo Bhava. Right? Guest is God. That whoever comes in front of us is an expression of the divine, and we bow down to it and we serve them. So they borrowed food, no running water, no electricity, they can't even afford to have vegetables, right? No milk, and they borrowed food to feed us. So repeatedly we started to tap into this idea of many different kinds of wealth, many different kinds of value. like Shakuben, one of my friends. She has been a janitor in a school for 28 years. And we were talking about this idea of many different ways to give. She has very little. She's sweeping the schools for 28 years. She has 2 kids. Actually, I know her because I know her 2 sons. She decided, she heard one of Gandhi's stories, and Gandhi apparently lost a small pencil in the ashram, and he said, oh my God, I've lost my pencil, let's look around. And one of these smart McKinsey type consultants, must have been, right, says, oh, Bapu, what's the problem? It's a small pencil, you're father of a nation. Here's a dozen pencils. But he says, no, that pencil was given to me by a young child with a lot of love. It wasn't the pencil, it was the wrapping of love around that pencil that mattered to Gandhi. So Shakuben heard that story and she says, you know, I'm sweeping all the time. I'm sweeping in so many classrooms at my school every single day, and people throw these small pencils and these broken erasers and these blunt sharpeners. Maybe that can be of use. Maybe by itself it's not worth that much, but if I put a lot of love into it, maybe that has some value. So she decided to try that. And the first bag that she collected, she gave to me as I was leaving one day after breakfast. I knew what it was. I don't know how it is here, or in the US, you would usually, if someone gives you a gift, you open it up, right? And you're like, wow, that's great. In India, you don't do that. So I was like, oh, should I open, should I not? But I knew what it was, and I was very touched. I had an event right after that. So I'm sharing her story, and I said, look, here's this pink bag. Like, it was kind of half ripped up. And I said, I haven't opened this, but this is not just a bunch of pencils and, you know, chewed up erasers and blunt sharpeners. This is a lot of love. I open this bag, I take this out, and it was incredible, right? I saw this. These are actually her hands. And you realize, I was in tears, as were so many of the other people. You realize that, wow, it's not just the stuff, it's what's wrapped around the stuff. It's not just the hardware, it's the software that, well, we all know about that. Huh? So this was a very important lesson that I kept learning again and again. But at its core, I think this is something we have stripped out. Right? There's an iceberg, and when you look at the iceberg, we just see what's on the top. But as science tells us, 90% of an iceberg is what's below the surface. Right? 90%. So for us to see the glossy 10%, for us to take photos with the 10%, for us to enjoy the beauty and revel in the awe of that 10%, we need the bottom 90%. Right? And if we don't have that 90%, it's just going to be patchwork. And so what I see at the bottom of the, underneath the sort of layers, is that we are fundamentally disconnected. Right? You have 8 men in the world who own more financial wealth than the bottom 3.5 billion people. Right? This row right here, and half of the world on the other side. It doesn't make sense even for these 8 people. But that's just the systems that we have created. Right? This is everybody taking a selfie with Hillary Clinton when she was running for president. It's beautiful because nobody's looking at her, right? Everyone's saying, and you say, well, how have we created these technologies where we say, I don't even need to make eye contact, right? Usually in the old school days, right? At least you looked at the person and there was this interaction. Now we're like, and of course it's not the kid's fault, and it's not Hillary's fault, it's just a culture that we have created where you are just a bunch of pixels for my Facebook wall, right? So this shows that we're not only disconnected with the systems, we're disconnected with each other. And there's a lot of data that I could tell you about that. This is Mark Zuckerberg, right, launching this multi-billion-dollar acquisition, Oculus Rift. And he comes in and he's super proud. He's like, forget eye contact. Why should we do that? Right? We can't even pay attention. I'm just going to put everybody's going to have this Oculus Rift. They're going to live in their own reality. And that's a proud moment. It's a disconnected moment. This is the cover of Economist magazine. They said, let's have progress, and so let's put price tags on every single thing. Like your dog, right? I guess this doesn't have a pointer, but you see over there, dog is $5 a walk. And we look at that, and we say, that's progress, but is it really progress? Can we afford to just put price tags on everything? I mean, the problem with putting price tags on everything, on some things it's fine, but if you start to use that same logic, if everything is a hammer, you're looking for that nail, right? If you start to do that, what the problem with it is we lose connection with the priceless. And the priceless starts to be below the iceberg. And here's an example of this, right? This was Economist magazine saying sharing economy, yay. But then you say, well, let's take that, multiple layers further. And so here's Time magazine saying, we actually don't know how to connect with our kids. So can we just bribe them to come to school? Can we? This is not Photoshop, right? This is real. And if you read, it says a major new study reveals an uncomfortable truth that it can work. That I've lost the connection with the children and I can't motivate them, so I'm going to pay them money. And then you say, why just stop there? Can you pay them to do homework? And there are actually hundreds of schools doing that. And you say, why stop there? I want them to eat vegetables. Can I pay them to go eat vegetables? And there's research out there that shows that paying kids to have vegetables is great. It gets them to eat vegetables. But it doesn't work in the longer term, right? You start to propagate deep disconnection. And so I think the question that I hold, the question that I think we all hold, is how do we reconnect? Right? How do we start to look below the surface and address more systemic and more fundamental issues? This was the question that we held back in 1999, back when I had a lot of hair. And the question was, can we serve? Can we engage in high bandwidth giving with multiple forms of capital so that we can reconnect ourselves and maybe hold space for others to reconnect with each other? We've been doing lots of things, lots of projects, I could tell you, but I think underneath it, you can look it up online, but underneath it, the core principle has been that generosity reconnects us. We are disconnected, there is no doubt about that, because all thought leaders will agree to that. Right? We have disconnections across from in a systemic way, in a social way, in a spiritual way. But how do we reconnect? And our hypothesis has been that generosity, high bandwidth generosity, reconnects us. Not sympathy, empathy a little bit, but compassion, definitely. So if you ask me, what have you learned through all these experiments? Right? I would say these 4 things. And this is what I want to leave all of you with. And I want to engage with all of you. Hopefully we can all work together to create this kind of a world. So at a very baseline, the most fundamental insight that we discovered after doing this work for so long with hundreds of thousands of people, in fact it's touching millions of lives, right? But the core insight that, of 4, and it's progressive. The first baseline is that you realize that everybody is good at something, right? And this is a counterintuitive idea for many of us. That we usually say, I'm great and you're not so great, you need to work hard to become as good as me. The reason why I'm on stage is because, there's something really special about me, and look at me, and I'll tell you. That's a view, but I think that's an outdated view. If we start to say, look, I'm good at something, you're good at something, you're good at something, and we start to bring all of that around, all of that together, there's a huge amount of possibility that can be unleashed. Einstein knew about that. Einstein said, everyone's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's going to live its whole life believing it's stupid. And this sounds so silly, right? Of course, you can't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, but this is exactly what we're doing in so many aspects of our society. This is a fellow named Firoz, very good friend of mine, someone Venkat also knows. Firoz had this idea. Firoz was a very successful person. So by the age of 36, he had 5,000 people reporting to him. He was at SAP, reporting to the board of SAP, doing great stuff. Then he got news one day that he's going to be a father. Great news. He was happy. He was elated. Then he got word that his son, who was going to be born, was going to be autistic. And the way Firoz describes it, he had no idea how to embrace this. He says, I went to the bathroom, locked myself, and cried for half an hour straight. I've never cried that much. I had no idea how to deal with this. But I realized, ultimately, he says, I realized ultimately that this would end up being my calling. This is his son, Vivan. Super cutie. Right? Vivan, he says, he found a new mission statement in life. His wife also quit her job. She says, I want to change the world for Vivan, who is autistic, and my wife wants to change Vivan for the world, support him. And so what Firoz decided to do is he's hiring so many people, right? Usually you hire people saying, this is what I want. Are you good at this? If you're not, then I don't want you next. He said, I'm going to turn that around. I'm going to start with the idea that everyone is good at something, and I'm going to include them. I'm going to hire 5 people on the autism spectrum. And I don't know how many of you know about the autism spectrum, but people who are autistic, they have so many assets that most of us, quote unquote, temporarily abled bodies don't have. Right? They're never late. They never get bored. They never lie. We're like, wow, the world should be run by them, right? So, and this was the case. So what Firoz did is he says, I'm going to turn my problem around so I can include and incorporate their strengths. And he did this, and it was a phenomenal. It was a Harvard business case study. Right? And the CEO of SAP comes into his office one day. He says, Firoz, this is amazing. By 2020, I want 1% of our staff, all staff at SAP, to be on the autism spectrum. So someone walked into Firoz's office and says, Firoz, today Vivan has created 650 jobs. Right? Firoz was so happy. And it's actually a lot more than that, because that was at that time, they had 65,000 people. SAP has a lot more. But the idea is, again, what Mother Teresa pointed us to, which is that there are multiple forms of capital. Right? Wealth is one of them, but wealth does not equal to all forms of capital. Wealth is a form of capital, and it's helpful in many ways, but we also have to include a whole different field of possibilities, right? Community, attention. Well, we got the nice dog there. My wife loves dogs. Dogs are like paying attention, they look at you. Human beings don't even know how to pay attention these days. It used to be that our attention span was like, I think 12 seconds, and the lowest of all living beings was goldfish at 9 seconds. But congratulations to human beings, we have now replaced goldfish at the bottom of the pyramid. We are now at 8 seconds. We don't know how to pay attention for more than 8 seconds. We have to do all these theatrics to like keep your eye contact, to stay connected. And if you don't, I'm just going to throw more and more flashy stuff. Right? So how do we start to, and that's just an example, how do we start to look at culture as a kind of capital? Knowledge, time, so many things, compassion. There's infinite forms of capital. How do we start to include all of them? And President Obama, actually, last year, I was on a council of President Obama to alleviate poverty and inequality, and this is him signing off on this statement, President of the country, right, of US. We should remember that capital is not just financial, it is social, informational, experiential, spiritual, emotional, natural, and cultural. So there you have it, we know it, but how can we incorporate that into our designs? How can we start to build a dialogue around that? We have so many markets to propagate financial wealth. How do we start to do that with other forms of wealth? So this was the first core insight that we learned, that everyone is good at something. Everyone can deliver value. Do we have the antenna to see that and the heart to amplify that? And the systems to really cultivate that? The second insight was that everyone is not just good at something, they can be great at giving. That giving is not a luxury sport. I got to tell you, so many experiences I've had, generosity is just not a luxury sport. This is not for the privileged. Everyone can have that privilege. We're so bought into Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but they say that's actually no longer relevant. It says it's more like vitamins. Sure, you need the basics, but you also need, you don't say, I need my vitamin C for the first 2 years, I'm going to take enough vitamin C for my whole life, and then I'll get to the other vitamins. That's sort of Maslow's hierarchy. Now they're saying, no, you actually need it in balance. You need vitamin G, no matter who you are. And if you do the sympathy, you get the low version, low bandwidth version. You do compassion, you get the high bandwidth version. But we all need that. Martin Luther King Jr. said it well. He says, everyone can be great because everyone can serve. Right? This is my friend Raghu. He has no legs, but he says, I want to be of service. How should I do that? Because he has no legs, he scoots, right? So you hear him. And he lives in this slums where there's lots of problems, right opposite the Gandhi ashram. And in this slums, there's a lot of abuse. And so Raghu, whenever he's passing, no one is threatened by him because he doesn't have legs. Because they're not threatened, they go and pour their hearts out. And Raghu says, wow, there's so many problems. I want to help. What can I do? He was particularly moved by women who are abused by their husbands. And this is a cycle, right? It's not like, oh, these husbands need to be corrected. It's like they're passing on the pain that other people are inflicting on them, right? It's like this negative paid-forward chain of pain. And so he doesn't know how to solve all of that, but he says there's these women who come up and pour their hearts out. I want to be of service to them. What can I do? I'm poor, financially poor. I don't even have legs. But because of that, it was his biggest asset. People shared their stories, and what he decided to do is give them a tulsi plant. So he would go in and do prayers with them, listen to them, offer them a tulsi plant. He says, you pray to the tulsi plant and you offer. And he would. And the next time he's passing, they would come up and they would be like, thank you for the tulsi plant, it's growing. And a part of them was also growing. A part of them had a connection with this person. No NGO could have done this. In a span of 2 years, he gave away more than 900 tulsi plants. 900 tulsi plants. And we said, look, however many tulsi plants you want, that's fine, because that's just the material capital, man. What you're doing is priceless capital, because he was able to create that connection. You cannot have a government program do this. You cannot have a CSR budget do this. You cannot have a social entrepreneurship program do this. You certainly cannot have a business do this. You needed a Raghu to go in there, touch these people's hearts, have them trust him, and create this ripple of a little bit of healing. And this happens with the understanding that everyone can be great at giving. And this is not to romanticize that you have to have little, even if you have a lot, right? This is another photo of it. We have this experiment called smile cards. I have some here for those that want it, right? Sam, can you give me one? Just so I can read what's on there. On the back is Hindi, the front side is English, the Indian version here. The idea behind a smile card is you do a small act of kindness. Let's say you pay toll for the car behind you, or pay for the coffee for the person behind you, and you tell them that, look, it's anonymously paid for. You don't know who did this for you, but pay it forward. Keep the chain going. And I've had remarkable experiments, but just to balance out Raghu's example, I'll tell you a story of one of my friends who's a billionaire. He came to me the first time we met, one-on-one. He comes in and he's like, you're very focused, right? Like, time is money, so let's be very focused. He says, look, Nippon, I know about giving. He's a great big philanthropist, but I don't know about receiving. What do you have to say about that? So we had this beautiful conversation on receiving. I said, look, if you're just doing sympathy kind of giving or empathy, you're gonna have trouble receiving. But if you deepen that process and go into compassion, you realize that you cannot give. It's impossible to give without receiving, but you have to be tuned into that. So give in a deeper way. So nice long conversation. Right? Conversations go so far. But then I was like, so at the end of the meal, he comes to me and he says, he's like, let me pay for your bill. And one of the things I love to do is pay for people's bills. But he knows that I'm a very simple person in some ways. We both have a lot of zeros in our bank account. His just has a 1 in front of it. So he knows that, and he's like, oh, there is no way, Nippon, I can let you pay for this, And I said, no, let me play it. And so we're fighting, and I said, okay, here's what we do. We're talking about smile cards. And so why don't we do this? Let me pay for our bill, but you pay for somebody else's tab. So he was like, okay. So the first thing, right, the waitress comes, and he has to explain this to the waitress. Now, it's one thing to hear me say it, it's another, now he has to explain it to the waitress. And the waitress's first response is, he looks at her and he's like, he says, we would like to pay for another table. Can you just put it on my credit card? And the first response she has is like, why? Right? She's probably thinking, why don't you just tip me all this amount? Well, like, why you got to do this, So then he explains the whole idea to her. She says, okay, fine, I'm going to do it. She's still a little hesitant, but okay, fine. And so she says, well, okay, but which table? So my friend now has to scan everybody. He says, no, they're too happy. No, they're medium. Oh, that table. Okay, all right. So he kind of has his algorithm, and he figures out which table. So now our waitress, her name is Mandy. Mandy goes up to that table, explains it, and we're sitting right over there looking at each other. And it's supposed to be anonymous, right? So I was like, I can't look over there. You know, you're curious, what's going to be the reaction? And he was curious too, but he hadn't done it before, so he wasn't looking there, but he was looking in the mirror. I mean, in the window for the reflection. So he's looking there, Mandy's over there, he's looking in the reflection, and I'm looking at his face. And it was the most incredible thing. Mandy comes back to our table, and she's like, we say, how'd he go? How was it? And she says, oh, you won't believe it. I went over there, I told them, someone anonymously wants to pay for your table just because. No reason, just to make you smile. And if you're moved to pay it forward, here's a smile card to remind you. Keep the chain going. Let the love spread. Mandy's so moved by this experience, but she's explaining to them, and they're like, oh my God, really? Like such people exist in the world? No agenda? And she says, you know, we're just visiting. We're visiting this place. Do you guys do this here all the time? Because then we'd like to move here. You know? This is like totally, so they had this beautiful interaction. Mandy brings that energy to our table, and at the end of our meal, I tell my billionaire friend, I said, look, you were giving, were you giving or were you receiving? At one level, he paid the financial capital, but it was so clear, black and white, had a big smile on his face. He's feeling the love, right? And how do you value, how do you equate what he gave and what he received? You really can't. But what you realize is that if everyone starts to tap into that idea that we can all be great at giving, fundamental ideas can be shifted. So whether you're Raghu or a billionaire, it doesn't matter. We can all be great at giving. And science tells you a lot about it. I'll skip this in the interest of time. The third big insight is, so now everyone gives, but if that giving gets connected, what happens? Right. If I do an act of kindness, we did it for Mandy, that's great, we talked to Mandy did it for that random couple, and that's going to create a ripple. We don't know what that's going to do. But what happens if we get in a circle and we say, I'm going to give to you, you can't pay back, but you pay forward, that person pays forward and forward and forward and forward and forward, and you will do something for me? What would happen in such a space? What is the kind of intelligence that would emerge in that kind of a space? So we tried it. We've tried it in various places, but one of the first places was we went and took over a restaurant. We said, how much is it? They said $700. Okay, we're gonna, just as you would for a party, except that here, we're gonna run the restaurant, allow anyone to come in, and gonna operate in our own way. We called it Karma Kitchen. You walk in, you have a meal. Now at the end of your meal, your check reads 0. Right? Your bill is 0. It's 0, not because it's free, it's 0 because someone before you has paid for you, and you are trusted to pay forward whatever you want for people after you. Most people, when you look at that, you say, oh my God, you trust people? You trust the goodness in people? No, people are all takers. You'll die. This won't survive. It's a nice, cute experiment. We said, look, yeah, maybe we're naive, utopian idealists, but maybe people are actually generous and kind. Maybe generosity begets even more generosity. Who knows? So we tried it. One-time experiment. People paid, so we covered the next week, and then the next week, and then the next week. And like that, now tens of thousands of people have had food here. Now it's in 23 places around the world, and people are all saying, so, business schools come in and they start to study us. They're like, can it really? Because we are taught in economics that people are fundamentally, A, they're rational, and B, they aim to maximize self-interest. This is the basis of all economics. And here you walk in and say, we're turning that upside down. We said, yeah, actually people will be generous. If you create a strong context, people are indeed generous. There's a seminal study. That came out of UC Berkeley. Right? One of our volunteers who then grew up to be a professor, she was like, this is so mind-blowing, I need to study it. Does it work? Does it just at Karma Kitchen, something special there? That's what, when Harvard came to study it in the early days, that's what they concluded. They said, this is great, but I think there's something special going on here. We don't know how to turn this into a model. This woman did an in-depth study under academic scrutiny on 8 different settings, in 8 different contexts. And the title of her paper, Paying More When Paying for Others. that actually people do. If you need a certain kind of context, right? Your Lexus car dealership is not going to work in the same way. Yeah, if you do it on a pay-forward basis, you'll probably run out before the cycle of generosity kicks in. But there are many things in society where this does actually have an incredible circle. And so if we embrace that, we create a very different pattern. We allow so many different kinds of value to be generated. So this is, is volunteer run. So what the secret of this, if you were to ask me, how does this work, right? And can it work in other contexts? The core sauce of this, the core secret sauce of this is that you have to create a strong context. And a large part of that context is you're run by volunteers, in our case. It means you realize that this person is going to do my dishes all day instead of sitting in front of the TV. And he doesn't even know me. He just wants to give me an experience in generosity. But what you also start to see is that it's not just about financially sustaining yourself. The real boom, the real sort of bang for the buck, so to speak, comes when you realize that the collective field that we're embedded in starts to have a very different kind of intelligence. People behave differently. You walk into this restaurant, right, and you realize that no one is paying for themselves. In that kind of a setting, people, just the rules of behavior completely change without anyone telling you anything. No one's forcing you. There's no police. You can leave whatever you want. You can take and run, but people behave differently. So what happens is, there's a very strong context. There's like quotes on your table, and the rice on or the peas on your rice come with a little heart-shaped, and it's like someone's singing a song. There's a smile deck. All kinds of things happen. But I'll tell you one story, right? One of my friends was a PhD student at UC Berkeley, and he didn't understand. He's like, this can't work, can it really work? How is it going to work? I said, the only way to really find out is to volunteer, right? Don't take my word for it. Volunteer and see. So he comes, and he's volunteering. And he comes to this one table. And of course, the customers are like, really? You guys are just doing this? Like, you're trusting me? So one of those tables, he's serving, and he's trusting him. And he hasn't gotten a check. So he looks at him, and at some point, the customer does something very interesting. He says, so you're trusting me to pay whatever I want for people after you, right? So this guy's like, yeah, I think that's how it works. He himself wasn't convinced of the idea. So this guy does something remarkable. He opens up his wallet. This is in America. He takes out a $100 bill, and he says, this is for you. You bring me back whatever change you think I should get. He turned the tides back on this guy, right? Now my friend, who's already confused about it, now he's saying, well, what do I give back to him? He doesn't know. So he ends up having this interesting dialogue with himself. I saw him. I said, let him struggle with it. He ends up doing something even more remarkable. He goes, takes out his wallet, takes out a 20 from his wallet, and gives him back the 120. The 100 plus his 20. There was no manual for this. I didn't tell him to do that. He himself could have never believed he would do that. But if there was just one story, you could say, wow, that was amazing. But you realize that in such a space, people behave differently. We are, what the Buddha would say, we are fundamentally compassionate. Not what economics says, that we're fundamentally greedy. We're fundamentally compassionate. We may have some clouds over it and we can't see the sun all the time, but if you create a strong context, the clouds part ways and you not only see that compassion, but you start to encourage it, rubs off on other people. So this idea is extremely powerful and it can be applied to so many things. This guy runs his magazine in this way. He says, no subscriptions, no ads. Just pure gift from me to you. If it stops, it stops. But if you're moved, you want it to continue, you can pay forward and offer me whatever you'd like. It's been going on for 8 years. This woman runs her acupuncture clinic in this way. This guy runs a rickshaw in Ahmedabad in this way. You sit in his rickshaw and there's no charge. And he says it's not free because he's hand to mouth. But he says, I'm willing to bet that if I treat you with love, that love will beget greater love. Real story. He's running his rickshaw in this way. Everyone is like, oh, who are you doing this for? Which organization? Who's funding you? He says, nobody. I just flipped it around. Sure, he's part of my, I would consider him a brother. And so we exchanged ideas, but he doesn't need me to do this. He just flipped it around. He says, instead of transaction, I'm going to go to trust. And trust in what? Trust in love. But you have to have first experienced that compassion to actually start to create that for other people. If you're just in the sympathy mode, it doesn't really, you see no potential in this, and we lose out as society. So he says, I'm going to turn it around. Everywhere people are talking about him, because this is a rickshaw driver. It's not Bill Gates teaching you about philanthropy. You sit in his rickshaw and you think, oh, rickshaw drivers are out to rip you off. This guy says, I'm not out here to rip you off. I'm here to make you my brother, make you my sister. So, to summarize the 3 points before I get to the fourth, is that if we lead with this inner transformation, the be selfish, be generous part, we realize that everyone is good at something. If we continue that, and we say that, look, when everyone has a gift, we can actually tap into this potential of everyone being great at giving. And when that giving is engaged, we start to create this kind of a gift ecology. Right? Not just a gift economy, but a gift ecology whose intelligence is very different. Right? It changes the game completely, radically. And then the last point, right? When such a network of gratitude emerges in any space, online, offline, at a karma kitchen, with a magazine, sitting in a rickshaw, at a medical clinic, if such a gratitude network emerges, you realize that everyone is connected to everything. And this is not just a spiritual insight that you have to believe. Right? I come from the Silicon Valley, where they do a lot of network analysis, and they tell you that we used to be in the TV model where one to many, right? One of me, many of you. And when you do that in a room full of 50 people, you have 50 connections. Then you had one-to-one, which is the telephone model. And when you do that, you have 1,250 connections. And now in the internet era, we have a many-to-many network, right? So this is Sarnoff's law, 50 connections, as I said. This is 1,225 in the telephone era. And now, you won't imagine, in a many-to-many internet era, a group-forming network, in a room full of just 50 people, how many connections are possible? 100 million trillion with just 50 people. This is just math. But we are nowhere near realizing this because we're so stuck in the one-to-many sort of a model. So how do we start to deepen? And the only way we can deepen is if we start to think in terms of many forms of capital, and we start to unlock nature's resources like compassion. Compassion doesn't need any marketing. Never, in our 20 years that we've been doing this, even Obama calling us, we never pitched it. We never said we want to speak here. We never said this is our price. No solicitation whatsoever. You just trust, and people will come back. People gravitate to compassion. It's a remarkable phenomenon. So, you don't see now you can see the 100 million trillion. So in conclusion, I think generosity helps us connect the branch tips on the top of the iceberg to the roots. Roots are invisible, and yet they have incredible strength. And I think it all starts with small acts of kindness. Because when we do that small act of kindness, right, no matter how busy you are, no matter how much you have or how little you have, if you do that small act of kindness, you unlock all this capital inside you, around you, outside of you. And that capital, when it gets connected, starts to create new possibilities in the world. So I have this video that I want to show you. Here, hold on. I have to give you a preamble. This will be my closing video. This video, so a few of us we were doing the smile card things, right? And I hope you take one, at least, this is not like a give out, this is not like a freebie that you get and you experiment. If you're truly moved to go out and do that act of kindness, that extra act of kindness for anybody, right? Venkat, one of the things I love about him, we were at the airport, going through business class lounge, right? Or business class line, and he looks at the person who is checking him in, stamp, stamp. And he says, "Thank you, Mr. Sainath." He said his name. That means he took time to notice it. You can do it in the smallest ways, and it starts to really open you up in remarkable, but in unexpected, it creates unexpected avenues of value creation. So we started to do this, and we said, it's great to do it alone, but what if we all decide to do a 21-day kindness challenge? Right? Let's all say that for 21 days, everyone does the same idea every day, but I will do it. Maybe I get weak on day 3, but then if I read your story, I said, oh, that's great. I'm motivated for day 4. Right? That's ancient technology, to do it together as community. So we started to do this, and we had no idea how many people. We said, our friends, let's just do it. And then we started to tell everybody. And 5,900 people from so many countries showed up. And now, of course, there's just, hundreds of thousands of people have done it. But at that time, it was our first time. And we said 21-day kindness challenge. So every day we would get this idea, and we would all do it. And there are hundreds and hundreds of stories that just completely move you. There's no leader, but it's just something you do for yourself. So this one rapper heard about this. And he said he had given up music because he thought music was just too sensational and too much. At 2 a.m. one day, he's like saying to himself, I'm writing sex jokes at 2 a.m. This can't be my calling. So he goes on this whole journey, gives it all up. He reads these stories and he says, I should make wholesome music. So he sits down on a desk. He has this idea. Just then he sits down on a desk, starts writing it. In one day, he has this song. By the second day, he's got the music for it. And of course, we have a huge community of people helping him. By the end of the week, there's a video. This is the video that I'm going to show you. And it's all done as a labor of love, and it went viral and has been seen by millions. And not only that, Nemo, who's the sort of rapper, he has gone on to create songs on gratitude, and he's gone on to create songs on planting seeds, like all these wholesome values. And kids all over the world are really, singing to this and creating all kinds of new value. So my invitation would be, let's watch the video, but let's tap into that space in ourselves. And if we can stay connected, there's a little sign-up sheet. If you want to do a kindness challenge, I'll do it with you. I can always use more kindness in my life, right? And let's all stay connected in that way. If you want to take a smile card, there's some smile cards there. You're welcome to take it and create that ripple, do something kind for somebody else. But even beyond that, I hope we just tap into that space of being kind and not just see it as a frivolous, superficial thing, but actually something that's way more powerful than anything else. This has been my experience, and I think the experience of all of us. Thank you so much. Let's watch it. This is all done on a week's notice.
Starts sinking and I'm thinking, what's the reason why we holding back from being kind? What's the disease? But then I sense we are fine. It'll all happen, one small step at a time. When the world is full of violence and it needs a little kindness, I just sit and pray in silence, and God shows me the signs. Open my eyes, realize we are fine. One small act at a time. Last night I'm walking home and the homeless man says hello with a smile to let me know that he's got a lot of hope. He says, have faith, young man, we are fine. The world is kind. One small act at a time. Small acts we do together, even though maybe alone, changes the world for the better, so we can call it home. And this is life as we know, when our hearts are aligned, the magic that unfolds, one small act at a time. Throw your hearts up, let it fly high, let your love for all the world spread through the skies. Let it drop down, let it all go, spreading kindness to every single living soul. Can you see your love for me shining through? Cause what you see in me, I can see in you. And soon enough, you and me will be out of time, and kindness will be all we can leave behind. Yeah, feeling grateful today. Never thought this day would come where I would feel it and say that each and every one of us has paved the way doing good, and now we're all just moving up. When I'm kind to you, you pay it forward. This is how we build trust. Never had faith, but now I'm seeing you eye to eye. Wanna gift you my life, wanna spread love before I die. Thank you, God, for finally letting me realize when I serve man, I'm really serving you in disguise. Smiles everywhere, cause now everybody's got the bug. Ain't no life without Just grab a friend and give a hug. Spread it out real wide so everyone can be touched. Throw your hearts up, let it fly high. Let your love for all the world spread through the skies. Let it drop down, let it all go. Spreading kindness to every single living soul. Can you see your love for me shining through? Cause what you see in me, I can see in you. And soon enough, you and me will be out of time. And kindness will be all we can leave behind. All we can leave behind. For you and I, kindness is all we can leave behind. All we can leave behind. For you and I, kindness is all we can leave behind. When all is said and done, kindness is all we can leave behind. Throw your hearts up, let it fly high. Let your love for all the world spread through the skies. Let it drop down, let it all go. Spreading kindness to every single living soul. Can you see your love for me shining through? Cause what you see in me, I can see in you. And soon enough, you and me will be out of time. And kindness will be all we can leave behind.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention, and I hope we can all stay connected in love. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nippon Mehta, for that wonderful design for service. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for pleasantries. May I please request District Governor K. Madhu Prasad to please present a memento of thanks to Dr. A.T. Kumararaja. May I please request District Governor Suresh Matthew to present a memento of thanks to Mr. Nippon Mehta. And for the official vote of thanks, may I please invite past District Governor Samuel Karamchand Rajarao, and he will also present a memento to Session Chair, past Rotary Director Yashpal Das.
Chairman of this program, past RA Director Yashpal Das, and two eminent speakers, Dr. Kumararaja, Nippon Mehta. It's an honor and privilege to give vote of thanks to the very knowledgeable people of Malaysia and India, man from States, of course. Dr. Kumararaja, I wanted to take some notes about your talk, then I found out it's a book itself. You are a book itself, and your experience in different places like Sanofi and government, Indian chambers, and you are the correct person for the topic strategic partnership. You took us through many angles of strategic partnership, and you touched the point, the sustainable development for the youngsters should be working for the community, not committee. That's a very key point. And you also told about 7 key points, which is also very relevant to the topic. Common denominators will always work, and the example dialysis is a wonderful point, what you touched upon. Thank you, sir, for giving your time, precious time here, and you took us to different angle of thinking. And Nippon Mehta, And his starting was wonderful, designing service. Be selfish and be generous was a wonderful point. And you said everybody is good and everybody can serve. And the inner transformation is very important in compassion. And the last point you touched was ecology emerges. And everyone is connected from top to bottom. The iceberg example was a wonderful one. And I wish the conveners and the organizers take all these notes and write it down to the people of this fraternity. It will be very useful for all of us. Once again, I thank you very much for the convener and the people who arranged these two speakers, that is past RA President Ravi and Rajaram, for bringing such wonderful speakers to this audience. And thank our chairman, Mr. Das, Director Das, for this chairmanship. He is a great strategy planner because he's a golfer. We are all golfers. He knows how to plan in the strategy in the golf course. He's a correct person for chairmanship. Thank you, Chairman, for chairing the session. Thank you.
Thank you, PDG Samuel. Request you to please present a memento to Session Chair, PRID Yashpal Das. And thank you, Mr. Nippon Mehta. Your smile tag has just reached the console as well. So thank you, the smiles are spreading. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the tea break is going to be exactly 5 minutes. You please just go out, pick up your tea and come back inside. You don't have to stand outside to have your tea.
Deepak Kapoor, past District Governor Deepak Kapoor, please come so that we save some time. PT, please come. Please come and take your seats. Sergeant at Arms, may I request sergeants to usher people in. We'll be starting the session now. Friends, you are going to miss a very good session. Please come in, please come in.
So ladies and gentlemen, General Session 7 is underway. Session Chair PRID Dr. M.K. Pandurang Shetty is taken the podium. Both the guests of the session, past Rotary Director P.T. Prabhakar and PDG Deepak Kapoor, the Chairman of the National Polio Plus Committee, are already on stage. And now, Session 7 begins. Over to the Session Chair.
Can we close the door? I'm going to be very, very brief in my opening remarks. Well, my friends, we have two eminent speakers. One to speak on the financial forecast by past Director P.T. Prabhakar, and then we have past District Governor Deepak Kapoor to be speaking on polio. We have two eminent speakers here. I'm not going to be speaking or making an introduction. I request the audiovisual presentation of P.T. Prabhakar. No introduction? Okay.
Everybody knows PRID P.T. Prabhakar and PRID Dr. M.K. Pandurang Shetty and past Governor Deepak Kapoor for all the work that they have done, sir.
Yeah, may I request P.T. to come and make his presentation so that we save time.
Rotary International President Ian Risley and PDG Juliet, galaxy of Rotary International officers, ladies and gentlemen. I am excited to share with you the 5-year forecast of Rotary International, and I will update you regarding Rotary's financial health. First is revenue from club dues, which is a very important revenue source. In 2018, membership dues are projected to comprise over 70% of Rotary's overall revenue. Then there is net investment income. Net investment in returns are very volatile. So Rotary plans conservatively and receives very little income from this source. Club dues and net investment income are used to pay for operating expenses, things like member services and programs, marketing initiatives, and allowances for board of directors. It's also used to pay for compliance activities like filing our annual financial statements. The third source of revenue comes from service and other activities such as international convention, the Rotarian magazine, and office space rental at one Rotary Center. These revenues are budgeted to cover the costs associated with these activities. Every year, the Board of Directors must pass a balanced budget. Expenses must be equal to or less than revenues. However, Rotary's bylaws state that from time to time, the board can approve strategic spending from the reserves. In the past, these funds have been used to pay for regional membership plans and to fund polio communications and contributions to the Rotary Foundation. In accordance with Bylaw 18.050.6, Rotary should have a reserve equivalent to 85% of the highest level of expenses over the last 3 years. The bylaw target is shown here as a blue line. The board, however, sets a more conservative reserve target. The board includes a convention reserve, which is equivalent to the excess revenues from past conventions. Funds from this reserve can be used for future conventions that may not break even. The board also includes an investment reserve to ensure sufficient funding when investment returns are lower than budgeted. The board can also design some of the surplus funds. The board can designate some of the surplus funds to invest in Rotary's future. This is a strategic investment. These three items, the convention reserve, the investment reserve, and the board's strategic investment, cause the board target, shown here as the green line, to be higher and more conservative than the bylaw's target. Most importantly, the amount above the bylaw's target is surplus that the board can specifically approve with a 3/4 vote to fund strategic plans. As you can see, by the end of 2017, Rotary is forecasted to have a surplus of $29 million above the board target. That is the state of health of our Rotary International finances, my dear friends, and you will see the good news is that Rotary International finances are in pink of condition. Thank you, Pandu, for the opportunity.
Thank you, PT, for your very brief presentation on the financial forecast. Now can we have AV of Deepak Kapoor? No? Mayor Deepak Kapoor, past District Governor Deepak Kapoor is known to all of us. So we are cancelling the audiovisual presentation. May I request Deepak to make his presentation on polio eradication program.
Why am I not surprised to find that this hall is not actually overflowing with people? After all, it is the penultimate session. People have to check out, are waiting to go home, and there is no meal to follow. Also, there is no more money being dispensed to Rotary districts in the country. We have gone over 6 years without a case, but if we forget the lessons that history has taught us, we are bound to repeat our mistakes. So what exactly did Polio Plus give us? I submit to you that it gave us respect, esteem, credibility, acceptance, and finally, as past President Kalyan says, it gave us the realization of what we are actually capable of. It gave us respect so that the doors of the Rashtrapati Bhavan opened to us. So that prime ministers would be happy to meet with Rotary. It gave us the esteem of the topmost bureaucrats in the land, the United Nations. It gave us credibility with people like Bill Gates, Mrs. Rajshri Birla, Amitabh Bachchan. It brought us the acceptance of communities across the country, pan-India, of ulemas, the Muslim religious teachers, in trains, in mandirs, in masjids, in churches. Don't forget that this is the organization, and I refer to Rotary, which struggled for respect, esteem, and credibility for years and years, especially in India. Rotary's tryst with community service began with a washroom in Chicago. For years and years, in fact, decades, Rotary propounded ethical practices. It organized soup kitchens, health camps, blood donation drives, gave scholarships. But even in a place like England, when asked, "Where is Rotary?" Winston Churchill is supposed to have said, "Rotary has gone to lunch." In India, The media still called the Rotary Club a Roti Club, a club which donated 4 sewing machines to needy widows while splurging on an elaborate meal in a 5-star hotel. Respect, esteem, credibility, and acceptance eluded Rotary until it found Polio Plus. I spoke of realization earlier. Raising $1.73 billion has shown us what we are capable of. Supporting 700,000 booths, round after round, delivering 22.5 crore vaccines, saving the lives and limbs of 2.5 billion children, have helped us realize our potential and opened up new vistas of service opportunities for us. It has helped us develop a platform to launch ambitious projects in literacy, sanitation, blood banking, and a whole host of other areas. None of this, friends, none of this would have been possible without our foray into polio eradication with WHO, UNICEF, CDC, and the governments of over 180 nations. The question arises, where do we go from here? Number 1, get rid of the virus in Pakistan, 5 cases. In Afghanistan, 11 cases. 2, ensure that Nigeria is polio-free and remains polio-free, and above all, that India keeps its status of a polio-free nation. The government of India believes that without Rotary's help, India cannot remain polio-free, especially with the virus lurking just across the borders in Pakistan and Afghanistan. Friends, you'll remember 24th October, some of you would for sure, 24th of October 1999, when the last case of the P2 virus, the last case in the world, was reported from Aligarh in India. It took 11 years, or nearly 11 years, before the P3 virus could be eradicated on the 22nd of October, 2010. And since baby Rukhsar developed polio on the 13th of January 2011, India has not had a single case of the wild polio virus. It's a mini miracle. If you were to ask the experts all over the world, including those at the WHO, they were convinced that India would indeed be the last country in the world to get rid of the polio virus. I remember Dr. Bruce Aylward of WHO, who was heading the campaign against polio for WHO for many years with great distinction, came to Delhi and said, "You guys, you are holding the world to ransom. I prophesy that India will be the last nation on earth to get rid of the polio virus." Later, of course, at the Global Vaccine Summit organized by Bill Gates in, Abu Dhabi, he was gracious enough to admit from the podium, pointing to me, he said, "I owe this guy and the Rotarians of India an apology. We underestimated them." But let us ask ourselves this. Even if we save a child from polio, will a mother or father thank us if the child gets seriously sick from malaria or rubella. Many of you ask over the years, what is this Polio Plus all about? What happened to the plus in Polio Plus? The Government of India's goal for 2020 envisions an India free from measles and rubella. The Government of India believes that India can keep polio at bay and eliminate measles and rubella only with Rotary re-energizing and reinvigorating its 150,000 strong family in India, using its expertise in raising funds, advocating at the highest levels, overcoming irrational fears and resistance to immunization. Friends, if measles and rubella are to be eliminated, Rotary will have to do social mobilization at a level that surpasses even what it did during the polio eradication initiative. It took Lord Hanuman to bring the Sanjeevani booty to save Lakshman. As the shloka goes, Ai Sanjeevani haath dei tab Lakshman ke tum pran ubaro, ko Ravan yudh ajan kiyo tab nag ke phans sabhi sir daro. Rotary will have to take a leaf out of Lord Hanuman's book, to take a leap like him. The Government of India is in the process of entering into an MOU with Rotary for the elimination of measles and rubella from India. Your national committee is charged with doing this job. But who exactly is going to do it? A handful of national committee members, the very inspired, very dedicated, very committed, but still only a handful of senior Rotary leaders from India. How will we do it? I submit to you that we will have to go back to where Rotary lives and breathes, to the very grassroots, to the individual Rotarians, the Rotary clubs, to the Rotary districts. That is how polio can be kept at bay. That is where measles and rubella will meet their end, at the club level. We have a legacy to protect, a foundation to safeguard, a reputation to keep alive. We cannot let years of hard work, decades of hard work, tons of sweat, loads of money to go down the drain of inaction and mediocrity. We cannot again revert to being a mediocre organization. If we do not do this now, we will lose it all. As Walter Scott, many of you have heard of Walter Scott, a polio victim from the British Isles, the poet, he said, if such there breeds, somebody who's not fulfilled his commitment, if such there breeds, go mark him well. For him, no minstrel raptures swell. High though his title, proud his name, boundless his wealth, his wish can claim, despite those titles, power and pelf, the wretch concentered all in self. And he goes on to say, living shall forfeit fair renown, and doubly dying shall go down into the wild dust from whence he sprung, unwept, unhonored, and unsung. Friends, your compassion, your empathy, your concern, your efforts, your dedication, your sincerity, your leadership will open the third eye of Lord Shiva. And I conclude with a prayer to Lord Shiva. Om Triambakam Yada Mahesh Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urva Rukmev Bandhanan Mrityu Mokshi Mamratat Swaha. Certainly, sir. Certainly, sir. On the 6th of December, a formal memorandum of understanding between the Government of India and Rotary is to be signed with our past president, Raja Sabu there. I was purposely holding back on the announcement because he's the one who's instrumental in getting this done, and I thought he would mention.
Thank you, Deepak. Friends, there is one thing. For a long time, we have been finding shortage of funds, particularly just the next 3 years, we need to raise 150 million. Now, you know the offer of Bill Gates is pending. Trustee chair has already made a request. There are good number of new Rotarians have been added. They have not contributed a single rupee for the polio cause. So may I request those of you who are here and also through the Rotary News and the other publications which we will have, to make a request to all the district governors to make it a point to have a speaker to speak on this program of raising funds to augment the requirement of the Rotary Foundation, to see that 50 million is raised every year for next 3 years as requested by trustee chair and as wanted by the trust, to see that our program becomes successful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, past Rotary Director Dr. M.K. Pandurang Shetty. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to see a small presentation on the upcoming Rotary International Convention 2018 at Toronto. And to please make this presentation, may I invite past District Governor Ramesh Agarwal ji to tell us about Toronto 2018.
G'day. On behalf of Rotary International, I look forward to welcoming you to our 109th Rotary Convention in Toronto. Not only will you hear captivating speeches and attend exciting breakout sessions, you'll also get to explore the service of others in the House of Friendship while connecting with fellow Rotarians from all around the world. Canada's largest city offers something for everyone. Museums, restaurants, shopping, stunning architecture, and a wonderful variety of activities along the beautiful lakefront. So I invite you to come, together with thousands of your Rotary friends, to experience the biggest event of the Rotary year. There's inspiration around every corner at our convention. Register today and join us in Toronto.
So friends, good morning. I'm here to share with you some of the information about the most important event of this Rotary year, Toronto Convention, where you will find inspiration around every corner from 23rd to 27th June of 2018. You heard the personal invitation from our President Jan. Jan is here. I'm just repeating his words. It's the best way there is to celebrate a year of successful services and renew our energies for the year to come. Friends, this is the tagline of our convention: inspiration from every corner. Inspiration from the vibrant city. As a global center of business, finance, arts, and culture, Toronto's vibrant Canada's largest city has something for everyone: museum, restaurants, and shopping, and much more. Fresh ideas. Friends, discover, innovate, and prospective ideas from world-renowned speakers, participate in breakout sessions, and explore innovative solutions to community problems at the House of Friendship. Toronto is having North America's most popular restaurants, attractions: CNN Tower, Royal Ontario Museum, Ripley's Aquarium, Hockey Hall of Fame, fantastic restaurants, art galleries, and thrilling entertainment. Toronto is great neighborhood and food to explore. Some unforgettable experiences at events including Riffest on 27th June and a concert from world-renowned artists that you won't want to miss. So join us in Toronto, registration early and save the money. Early registrations are going on. Friends, remember the date coming very soon, 15th of December. The early registration, the discount rates is going on. After that, the rates will be increased. You have seen here $335 just online, and after 15th December, it would be $410. So just to save $75, the time is very short. Your registration includes so many things. I'm just pointing out the last line. Above all the things are there, which you can find on this website. But our love and affection. Every registration includes our love and affection with you. We all wanted to be here, which is not included. Of course, everyone knows pre-convention events are not included. Rotary and host ticketed events, accommodations, meals, and transportations. Pre-convention events, as you know, there are Youth Exchange Officer pre-convention, Road Track pre-convention. This year, Road Track pre-convention is very important because they are celebrating 50th anniversary of this Road Track movement. Program highlights world-renowned speakers. There are a series of world-renowned speakers which include world leaders, philanthropists, and celebrities. Pre-convention events I have shared you. Breakout sessions. There are around 50 breakout sessions. You can choose as per your choice. You can find your interest, connect one-to-one solutions with your problems, discuss one-to-one things with all the leaders of the Rotary world and the other world. Top 5 reasons. We have just shortlisted of top 5 reasons. There are so many reasons, but just top 5 reasons to attend the convention. You can feel that you have traveled the whole world by coming to the convention. Excitement above the below ground. If you want to feel CNN Tower, which is 1,168 feet above ground, and if you feel underwater view, just check with Ripley's Aquarium of Canada, which is underwater. A global food scene. I have just shared with you that St. Lawrence Market is among the 10 best fruit markets in the world. You will find a variety of ethnic food options. Nearby, Kansing Market, which is more nearby than actual market, offers more opportunity to eat your way across the globe. Grand tours, you can plan your tours before the convention or after the convention as it suits to you, and welcoming, caring host. The host organization committee is very well there to welcome you and to care everything about you. These are all the events. Since shortage of time, I don't want to repeat anything. There are some ticketed events, Road Track pre-convention, Youth Exchange, and World Water Summit. They are all, these all rates have been mentioned here in Canadian dollars. $100, $100, $100. During the convention, $50 youth program anniversary, those who want to attend and those who want to register for this program, because the registration are going on, and first come, first serve, the registration will be closed as soon as their capacity of the hall will be over. So I request everyone to register, those who want to attend this President-elect Leadership Luncheon, President Recognition Luncheon, to register as soon as possible. There are two, as we all know, that there are two events of the donors. One of the Arts Club society donors, those who are members of this society, they have a dinner, and those who are major donors, because society members did an event this year we are not having. Travel plan, as I said you, that you can plan before and after as per you suits to you, making near areas a tour. Temperature around, there will be temperature around 17 to 22 degrees Celsius. This is just for an idea. Accommodation, as the time is running on, I request all of you to book your hotel room with the Rotary's official housing partner, Expedient, because it will be easier to book the hotel rooms with this agency, because they have all the facilities, they have all the information about the rooms available, and it's easier to book a hotel with them. Canadian visa, the thing which the management committee can provide you the invitation letter after your registration is over, they will provide you the invitation letter, so that will make your Canadian visa easier when you apply with all the documents with your country. Convention venue, there are two venues, just 800 meters by walk between two venues, Air Canada Center and Metro Toronto Convention Center. They are very close to each other. Yes, it's finished. So friends, we are all waiting for you 23rd to 27th June at Toronto Convention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, past Governor Ramesh Agarwalji. It's time for the pleasantries. To present a token of appreciation, may I please invite District Governor Dr. Chinnadurai Abdullah. He'll present a token of appreciation to PRID PT Prabhakar. And to present a token of appreciation to past Governor Deepak Kapoor, may I please invite District Governor Sunil Saraf. If DG Sunil Saraf is not there, and I request DG Dr. Chinnadurai Abdullah to present both the mementos. For the official vote of thanks and to present a memento to Session Chair PRID Dr. M.K. Pandurang Shetty, may I please invite past District Governor Dr. T. George Sundaraj.
Yes, please. My dear Rotary world leaders and leaders of Rotary from India, Nepal and Sri Lanka, first of all, I must thank PT Prabhakar, always articulate, direct and hits the nail on its head, and put it very clearly that our financial position in 2017 is very good, and we have got $29 million in reserve. And I thank Deepak Kapoor. Always when you think of Polio Plus, the synonym to Polio Plus is our chairman, National Polio Plus Committee. And he told us, every time I go to somebody, they ask me, can you tell me something about Rotary? This is non-Rotarians. Can you tell me something about Rotary other than Polio Plus? So when we say Polio Plus session, we always wonder, are we going to face the same thing? But today he brought a separate and a different topic altogether, and he talked about measles and rubella. I think it is high time we took up this. We have taken it up in clubs, and we are going to take it up, and it's going to help us. And I thank the chair for chairing this session very well, and also told us the importance of giving. Thank you very much, sir. And I also thank the audience, even though very few people sitting here, and you sat through the session because you wanted to know the importance of Polio Plus, which gave us the respect, esteem, and credibility. Thank you very much.
Thank you, PDG Dr. George Sundaraj. Please present a memento to our session chair, past Rotary Director Dr. M.K. Pandurang Shetty. Special thanks to PRID Pandurang Shetty for bringing us back on schedule. We are back at the scheduled time, even though we started half an hour late. The session chair has brought it back on schedule. Thank you, gentlemen, for that wonderful session, the General Session 7. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we now proceed to the concluding session of the Rotary Zone Institute 2017. And may I please invite Convener and Director, Rotarian Bhaskar Chokalingam, to chair this session. May I also please invite Rotary International President Ian Risley, TRF Trustee Chair, past Rotary Director Paul Netzel, and of course, the Chairman of Rotary Institute 2017, past District Governor R. Teenachandran, to please come up for the concluding session of Rotary Zone Institute 2017.
Friends, we are back on time, and I'm sure that all of you enjoyed this Rotary Institute 2017 being held at Kuala Lumpur. Friends, I must thank President Yan for granting me permission to host this institute at Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, which is outside our zone. One of the reasons I chose this venue because we estimated a room requirement of about 425 in numbers, and I checked up in our metros and they were not in a position to offer so many rooms in one venue. And most of the metros in India, the traffic congestion what we have during the peak hours. And this hotel had more than 1,200 rooms with so many facilities. Then I thought this would be the best place to have this institute without any logistics issues. And President understood my difficulty and he granted permission to host this wonderful institute here at this beautiful venue. My next challenge came, whom to have as the chairman. Because the chairman of the institute is the person who organizes everything. Starting from registrations till the last moment when the people board their plane back home. It's the most challenging job, and I had to select somebody who is capable, who basically has all the infrastructure, above all that, who basically has the financial means in case of running short of money. And I could not have selected anybody better than our own past District Governor Teenachandran. And Teenachandran and his spouse Vasanthi, please come. Teenachandran and Vasanthi had been a wonderful couple, and they do not look up anything for any other benefit. Their only passion is to do a great institute so that every single registrant who comes here to the institute enjoys every minute, and for last 1 year, both of them have put in their best efforts, and I'm sure you all of the registrants who are sitting here and who have left also would have understood the amount of efforts what these couple have put in, along with the committee members whom they have carefully chosen. At this point of time, I must also, thank every committee member who contributed tremendously to make this institute a great event. I would like to recognize the chairman of this institute, past District Governor Teenachandran and his spouse Vasanthi, on behalf of everyone who is sitting in this hall. Then later I would request chairman to come and invite the committee members and to get recognized. May I request Mara to come on the stage to recognize the chairman and his spouse, Vasanti.
Very good morning, friends. Now it's time to recognize all our committee chairmen and their members. We thank wholeheartedly first the Secretary PDG Deepak Sikapur and Treasurer Narayanaswamy for being with us in coordinating with every committee to make it happen. We thank them. Please come to the stage and get recognized. Then the Registration Committee Chair, Past District Governor Purushothaman, the Promotion Committee Chair, Past District Governor Rajadhari Michael, Past District Governor Ramesh Agarwal, Past District Governor Sanjay Kemka, and all the members for their untiring work to bring 700 plus registrations. PDG Rajadhari Michael was not only a promotional chair but also helping us right from the beginning in every area. I request them to come to the stage and get recognized. Now the Program Committee Chair, Past District Governor Rajaram, and the members for their good effort and work in giving us the best program. And in this institute, almost 90% of them are international speakers. Well planned and well executed. We thank them all. Please come, Rajaram. Then Accommodation Committee Chair, Past District Governor Gunasekharan, and the members for their untiring work. Thanks to them. Please, Gunasekhar, come to the stage, please. Transport Committee Chair, Past District Governor Gopal, and members for their hectic work of taking care of the airport transfers. Thanks to them. Please, Gopal, come and get recognized. Food Committee Chair,
past District Governor Rajshekharan and members for their care and efforts to feast the taste bud of everyone with the vegetarian and non-vegetarian food. Thanks to them. Dr. Rajshekhar? Okay. VIP Hospitality Committee Chair, past District Governor TVR Murthy and past District Governor Raja Ramakrishnan and members for their excellent work in receiving all VIPs at the airport, taking care of them and saw them off to their entire satisfaction. Thanks a lot. TVR Murthy, please. Raja Ramakrishnan. Now the Publication Committee Chair, past District Governor Dr. Rekha Shetty and members for their interesting newsletter to promote the Institute. We write to say thanks to them. Please come. Now the Branding Committee Chair, past District Governor Raghunath and members for their contribution in branding the entire venue in a unique style this year. Thanks to them. Raghunath, please. Now the Technology and Website Committee Chair, past District Governor Dr. Balakrishnan Inamdar and members for their wonderful coordination with the website, Institute mobile app and program presentation, etc. I also like to recognize our special thanks to Sameer Hirani, our DGN, for the wonderful MC with his sweet voice. Now the Fellowship Committee, Chair, past District Governor Mohan Mulgarkar and past District Governor Sanmu Sundaram and members for arranging a very good environment with Malaysian and Hawaiian themed cocktails. I should specially thank Mohan Murlikar for providing yesterday LED goggles, bangles and rings to all the charming ladies. Please, Mohan. Entertainment Committee Chair, PDG Velaida Ravindran and members for arranging good environments, and we enjoyed the lovely evenings with music and also dances during the interlude. Thanks to them. Please, Ravi. Now the Kit Committee Chair, past District Governor Rajendran and DG Gopalakrishnan and members for their wonderful arrangements to deliver the kit at their at our doorstep this year. Please. Directory Committee Chair, past District Governor E.K. Dr. Sagadevan and members for their good work. The directory will be sent to your home in few weeks' time. Please, Sagadevan. Our special thanks to Chief Sergeant Dab, Sam Patinla and other sergeants and also the volunteers for taking care of all the arrangements in order.
We want all the sergeants.
Okay, please come. All the sergeants, sir.
All the yellow jackets, please be here for a minute, please.
Okay. Please. Basu, done a wonderful job, please. A very special thanks to medical committee members for their alertness and ready to serve attitude. Thanks to them. Then we also recognize and thank all the special aides who have taken care of our VIPs and the speakers throughout the program. We also recognize all the session sponsors and other sponsors who are very generous to this institute.
Expression of
expression, yeah.
Expression.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Now invite Trustee Chair, past Rotary International Director Paul for his concluding remarks.
Well, good afternoon, and it's great to see a few more people coming in. I know that some were stuck in the sand last night, I understand. The chairs that they sat in kind of got down, and if you hit it just wrong, it took about 3 hours to get out of the chair at the end of the evening. Thank you so much. Actually, I don't want to knock it over. Thank you. But let me just say a few brief things. That it was such a privilege to be able to be here, and I came knowing what I would likely be able to encounter and experience. Anytime one from America, let me put it in that way, when we travel internationally to so many different countries and cultures, it's a remarkable experience to see life in an entirely different setting than we would normally encounter, obviously, in our own hometowns. But coming to India, and even though Kuala Lumpur is a little bit a ways from India, this has been a India Institute without a doubt, through and through, and of course Sri Lanka and Bhutan and Nepal and so forth, I recognize have been part of this in every way possible. But the thing that I look forward to and always leave the experience, and will again this time, is that I leave with the feeling that you Rotarians are superstars in the world of Rotary. You are superstars. You have for years, for decades, and you are continuing to do so, and I'm absolutely convinced as time goes on you're going to do so even more. Lead the way in the world of Rotary in terms into new grounds, new excitement, new possibilities, because you are living it, breathing it, doing it every day in your own community. And just understand, it has not gone unnoticed. Definitely so. Rotarians, I want to thank RI Director and Institute Convener Basker, and thank you. Where'd you go, Basker? Over here. For the invitation for me to be able to be here to share this week with you, and the opportunity to have what I consider a remarkable, unending supply of leaders coming forward in different ways to communicate, to share ideas, to talk about their vision, their dreams, what's been going on, and where we're headed in the future. This is truly a fabulous environment, family of Rotary for zones 4, 5, and 6A. You and Mala, as director and spouse, have been already doing remarkable things out of Rotary headquarters and here in India. So you have been equally gracious in your hosting, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate this. And my wife Diane sends her regrets again for not being able to join us. I know she would absolutely have been thoroughly delighted and enjoy every minute. To Institute Chair and past District Governor Thina, and to you and your spouse Vasanti, and your entire Institute team, you have done a fantastic job in helping us to unite to serve. Thank you again. And it has been, as is always the case, a wonderful experience to be able to spend this time with trustees Sushil and Ravi and trustee-elect Ghulam. My only regret is we've worked together before, but I'm not going to have the honor and privilege of being able to work with you once you start your year of service or your term of service on 1 July 2018. But I know that we as trustees will go back to our trustees meetings, and Ghulam will be with us starting in January, as we say, backbenching each of the meetings between now and when he officially takes over. But we'll go back with a new special insight and passion about what is happening in the Rotary world in this part of the world. You know, I've had an amazing time this week from my early arrival on the 28th of Tuesday, it was, the 28th of November, through right now, and I want to acknowledge again so gratefully my aides, past District Governor John and Mira. Would you guys stand just so I can again have everybody recognize the fantastic job. Basker, I know he was asking you to tell us what you liked, what you didn't like, what was outstanding and so forth. Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, you picked 2 10s to serve as my aide, so thank you so very, very much. They're the best that I can recall having in many years of travels around the world. And the GETS program that you have had is outstanding, and really one of the things that really I appreciate so much, the opportunity, first of all, to help lead off the GETS in part by a topic of ushering in the new century of the Rotary Foundation. But what has impressed me most about the class of DGEs is the passion and the dedication you have to Rotary and to doing an outstanding job. And I know that the class of district governors in 2018-19 will indeed be successful miracle chasers. Truly so. My meeting with the district governors also was very productive. They're on the job now, kind of taking a little bit of a break. In fact, I see that some are taking a break right now, enjoying the last few minutes of this institute. But the bottom line is they really are doing an outstanding job. And I had, I think, a very productive discussion with them, sharing ideas. And I had many great questions, but more importantly, a lot of really excellent suggestions. And they have been duly noted, and we'll be taking them back, and the trustees will give consideration as appropriate for those. And then on Wednesday night, as I recall, it was a wonderful evening to have a dinner with the Bequest Society members, major donors, and Arch Clump Society. Gosh, the room was just jam-packed with people, and you know, they have been showing us their special passion, largely through their financial support, some actually giving of their time and effort out in the field also. But they have underscored just how Rotary is making a difference. And there are so many different ways that each of us individually can make a difference as Rotarians, and doing the good work that we all know needs to be done, desperately so, in many parts of the world. And then it was a pleasure to help inaugurate the Rotary Foundation seminar. And I had a chance to talk about our foundation from the perspective of giving, but also the impact that Rotarians are making and will be making through grants and through our Polio initiative and so many, and scholarships and so many other things. And so that was a very interesting and I think energizing experience, and I'll take away memories from that as well. And the opportunity for the Institute opening and the powerful speakers that you've had, not only from the beginning session of the Institute, but throughout, just almost without exception, they have been truly exceptional, and that was wonderful. And last night, to kind of bring somewhat a bit of closure to this institute, sitting on the sandy beach and looking at the lights reflecting off the beautiful blue lagoon, and most importantly, though, the drums that were beating all night, it seemed, so that it was not too hard to hear the drum beats. And you know, I was sitting back in my chair a little bit, enjoying the feet in the sand and listening to the drums and the great entertainment that we had. And I was thinking, I remember Basker, I think, or somebody, was it you, Basker, that was talking a couple days before that we really needed to look for a new theme, anthem, Rotary anthem. Was that you? I'm sorry, was that? Anyway, I was thinking last night, somewhere in all of the drum beats and all of that music, there has to be some basis for us to be able to extract a Rotary anthem. So we'll have to wait and see what President Ian is able to help come up with this year. But I have a hunch there may be a lot of drums in the anthem, among other things. But it truly was a wonderful evening, and most importantly, throughout this entire experience, the great friendships, the opportunity to meet with so many of you individually, to have some photographs taken with you, to shake your hand, to talk with you about what you're doing, and to hear your ideas and what needs to be done, and to see you posting Facebook images of not just with us, but with of the Institute itself. And then, did I mention photos? More photos. We had a few photos along the way, and that's always, and selfies too, by the way. And that also, all of those though are special moments and a personal opportunity for us to connect, you, me, and everybody else with one another. And that's the beauty of the environment that we're in today. And technology, while it has its moments, when the opening, the PowerPoints weren't exactly all that needed, and I had to kind of set aside one of the speeches or one of the stories that I really wanted to tell, but I couldn't do it. Technology works both ways for us, but net, I think we're way ahead of the game in terms of what it is enabling us to do. And we had some very brilliant speakers. Mehta Chang, who comes from my part of the Rotary world, is one of the up-and-comers in Rotary. But you have your up-and-comers in Rotary as well. Some have already come and are here now, but some are still in the process. And a number of them are here. And I was so delighted to see some of the younger Rotarians and Rotary leaders that you have here. I think the energy that they're going to bring to your part of the world in not just in the next 5 years, but the next 10, 20, maybe even 30 years. I see a great and promising future for Rotary in this part of the world, and I'm so pleased to have been able to be a part of it. And I just want to let you know, thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you've done, more importantly for everything that you're going to be doing, not only through this year, your support of the Rotary Foundation, and other ways helping people around the world, but what you're going to be doing in the years to come. Thank you again, and I'll look forward to our next visit.
Thank you, TRF Trustee Chair, Past Rotary Director Paul Netzel, for those wonderful words in conclusion. May I now please invite Rotary International President Ian Risley for his concluding remarks at the Rotary Institute 2017.
Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. I've learned something else. No, actually I haven't learned, but I've been reminded of something else. Never follow Paul Netzel to the podium, because almost certainly he said what you wanted to say. Very eloquently, Paul, but thank you to everyone, that's good. I want to also express some thanks. Our aides, Ngozi and Nandini Wera, please thank them, they're sensational. Thank you very much. It's a somewhat more difficult task to be aide when you're involved with Rotarians in India, because they're so friendly and so enthusiastic. And so I have loaned him a baseball bat to try and find some room here. Maybe it should have been a cricket bat. But it was his idea that we should retrospectively, Paul, charge 100 rupees a photograph. That's fair, isn't it? Okay. So he will collect it on my behalf and on Paul's behalf and present it later. That's great. Now, I do have, not that I often disagree with spiritual leaders, but I want to, I hope this works. AV people, I hope this works. Like I said, I hope it works. Okay, maybe it doesn't work. Because what I was seeking to do was play the, it says done. Forget it. Yes, but I've already done. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We do have a Rotary anthem. I just need to let you know that a Rotary anthem does exist. I can't play it. Oh, that was it. That was it very briefly. Maybe, I'll just hang on to it here, and if it comes on, I'll let you know. It's called Egmont's Overture by... Bom ba bom, bom ba bom. Okay, that's what it's called. Egmont's Overture by an up-and-coming writer called Ludwig van Beethoven. And maybe it's not good enough, but it does actually exist. So when you hear that, that is Rotary's official anthem. I love Rotary Institutes. Just as well I love Rotary Institutes because I go to a heck of a lot of them. They're all similar, but in their own unique way, they're all different as well. And they're all inspirational. And one of the things, the amazing things about getting to take part in so many different Rotary events and so many institutes is that you get the chance to find out so much about what Rotary is doing right around the world. The variety of service that you see is just amazing and, frankly, inspirational. Now, one of the great Rotary people from India is Usha Shabu. Now, Ushaji, her project to support the Indian troops with Diwali packages is absolutely heartwarming, and it warrants your total support. And Deepak spoke this morning on polio, and in fact Polio Plus, because he spent some time talking about the plus element. The achievement of the people of India and the Rotarians of India in eradicating polio is astounding and amazing, and the rest of the world is in awe of your achievement, positively in awe. Think back to the photo that we've all seen of Ruksha Khatun looking over, I think it was her father's shoulder, she being the last sufferer of polio from India. We don't want any more of those. So whilst eradication has taken place, as Deepak alluded to, it is absolutely critical that all Rotarians, but the Rotarians of India in particular, are vigilant and keep supporting and keep ensuring that polio does not return to the great country of India. That is absolutely essential. There's a series of comments that I was going to make, but in particular I want to recognise the sergeant team. The people in those extremely attractive yellow vests, like that one right there. Sergeants, you did a great job, an outstanding job. And I have to say that, as I say, I've been to lots of these events. The way in which the sergeants and other helpers ushered us around and ensured we weren't late, but we were able to get to wherever we wanted to get to, was just terrific. And of course there's such a significant crowd here at an Indian Institute, so you folks are outstanding. I want to close with a quote. I love quotes. Did I mention this the other day? I really enjoy quotes. And I enjoy quotes because well, frankly, it means that people who are a heck of a lot smarter than me can get a message across, and I can tell you about it. And this is a quote from the great Eleanor Roosevelt, one of my favorites. And she said, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." In Rotary, we have dreams, yes we do, but we work very, very hard to turn them into reality, and the world is a better place as a result of that. So you need to be congratulated because you are doing great work, great work. I'd like to congratulate Convener Basker. We all know how easy this is not. So you and your committee, Chairman Thena, and all of your support staff who were up here before, an outstanding job. This is one of the great gatherings. So I congratulate you sincerely. I look forward. In fact, please, yes, let's congratulate them. And I hope that and I expect great support for next year's Institute when you reconvene in Chennai. It's obviously always fun, but it's also informative, inspirational as well. So again, congratulations and on to Chennai. Thank you.
Thank you, President Ian, for those memorable concluding remarks. May I now please invite Convener Director Bhaskar for his concluding remarks at Rotary Zone Institute 2017.
Friends, our world leader Ian wanted us to make a difference this year. This institute we have titled as Unite to Serve has been very true in several aspects. Friends, we do have the presence of all the senior leaders of our zone, that is the past Rotary International Presidents and RI General Officers. All of them are present in this institute to ensure this institute becomes a very successful institute. I must thank on behalf of every registrant for their wonderful presence and participation in this institute, and many of them served as a faculty at GETS and they were the speakers at the institute, and without their cooperation, their support, this institute would not have been such a successful one. Thank you once again to all the senior leaders and RI General Officers who are here. Friend, this GETS, we really wanted to be a very, very serious training program. And I'm sure the Miracle Chaser governors who are going to lead the district in 2018-19 would not have undergone a better training program, than what has been organized here. The entire credit goes to the GETS chair Sam Mova, past district governor Sam Mova, and the GETS general trainer Rajaram. Are you there? Please stand up and get recognized if you are there. Thank you very much for the wonderful program. And friends, the district governor nominee training program, again, it was a very well designed program, and I believe they ran the program again like gets minute to minute. And I must thank the chairman, DGN seminar chairman, past district governor Oli, is he here? For the wonderful effort what he has taken to make that seminar is quite meaningful for everyone. District Trainers Training Seminar. This has been little, people used to take it little easier in the previous institute. This institute, I have made this District Trainer Training Seminar mandatory for all the incoming trainers. And we did have a session along with the district governor-elect so that they get together to plan their district training events, in tandem. And that was a very successful, and the district trainers training seminar was chaired by past district governor Surya Prakash Bhatt, and he did a wonderful job. Suri is here? Fine. Then the Council on Legislation seminar. Council on Legislation, of course, we had only half a day session, but still it was more of a sort of a practical training planned by the past district governor Raju Subramaniam from district 3141, who handled it extremely well. And coming to the institute, friend, let me tell you, whenever I travel in the district, most of the RI officers, they were requesting me that we need to improve the quality of the programs at the institute. They were hinting me they should get speakers of worthy to listen, so that their time, money and effort, what they spend attending this institute will be very good. And in fact, we did put in all our best efforts to ensure that every speaker who comes to this institute, will give their best. And I do hope that they have done their best. And what is your rating? Were they good? Thank you. And friends, we do have a special guest amidst of us. I did invite my fellow director from US, John Matthews and Mary, and they have never been to this part of Asia, especially in the Rotary world, to see how the Rotary Institute happens. When I invited them, immediately they gladly accepted to be here. John also played a very vital role in all the training programs of our institute. He shared what's happening in US and some of the best practices. We must thank John and Mary, where both John gets recognized, and wonderful help they did. And I'm sure that entertainments were very good, because the people were refusing to leave the place, even though the music were shut down. I'm sure that all of you had enjoyed even the entertainments and meeting your old friends as well as making your friends. I think you all enjoyed this last 3 days event, what has happened in Kuala Lumpur. Friends, don't think that it is going to stop. We are all awaiting to see you at Chennai. On October 5th to 7th, if you have not registered, still the registration counter is open outside. You can register and get the benefit. Friends, it is our duty to recognize the presence of our world leader and as well as the trustee chair, Paul. Please let us all stand up and give a standing ovation to our world leader and the trustee chair, Paul, for their presence, for their encouragement and for their participation in this wonderful United Serve Rotary Institute. Friends, I thank, Mala joins me in thanking each one of you from the bottom of our heart. Mala, come. Please. Friends, if there are any shortcomings, please do apologize as it was not intentional, but sometime when you have an event with 750 guests, its arrangements are, whatever we did plan everything meticulously, but still we had some few issues, and of course I am sure that you were kind enough to bear those issues, understanding the organizers' constraints. And from our bottom of our hearts, we thank each one of you for the tremendous amount of support, encouragement you gave us to make this Rotary Institute 2017 a great success. Thank you very much.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I think a standing ovation for convener and director Bhaskar and Mrs. Malti Bhaskar. Thank you, convener and director. Well, to express gratitude for one final time at Rotary Zone Institute 2017, please welcome the Institute Chairman, past District Governor R. Teenachandran.
Dear friends, it's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of the Rotary Institute 2017 convener R.I.D. Bhaskar and the entire organizing committee, and on my own behalf, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to the very presence of Rotary International President Ian Risley and his Aunt Juliet, the Rotary International Foundation Trustee Chair Paul Netzel, PRIPs Raja Sabu and Usaji, Kalyan Banerjee and Binotaji, and KR Ravindran and Vanati, and our very special thanks to RID John Matthew and his aunt Mary Ellen, and all the past Rotary International directors and their spouses. In spite of their busy schedule, they managed to be with us throughout this program. Sir, we are all inspired by your gracious presence, participation, and presentation in this institute. We would also like to acknowledge with thanks Mahatriyara from Chennai, Swami Subhavananda from Bangalore, Mr. Steve Rogers from United States, Miti Jang from United States, Mr. Sivkera from New Delhi, from Nippon Mehta from United States, Dr. Kumar Raja from Penang, and our esteemed speakers who took the time out of their very busy schedule and flew long distance to be with us. They have showered us with their pearls of wisdom and knowledge. We are truly humbled by their presence and presentation. We should mention our deep sense of appreciation for their excellent speeches which enriched our knowledge. Thank you all once again. Our special thanks to all the Rotary International, USA and South Asia staff for their useful presence, presentation and support to make this program a grand success. Friends, I want to shout my thanks out loud, and I want everyone to know and hear how much the support of the convener and committee members mean to me. But more than that, no event can take shape without a hard-working leader. Our director Bhaskar, he is very patient and practical. You listen and you understand and give solution instantly. You proved a leader is someone who creates an event and team members essentially bring life to it. It was a dedication and enthusiasm of our convener Bhaskar and the entire institute team, and their determination are very commendable. And it is their hard work which made this huge success. I bow before every one of the organizing committee and express my sincere thanks for the excellent contribution which made this dream a reality. Furthermore, let us have a special recognition to all the audience who remained patient throughout and encourage the morale of the speakers by their gusto and enthusiasm. Thank you so much for being our pillars of support. Let us have a big round of applause for our lovely audience. Thanks to our district governors, district governor-elects, district governor nominees and their spouses for their cooperation and support to this institute. We especially thank all the trend-setting governors and miracle-chasing governor-elects for hosting the lunch yesterday and today. Our thanks to the management and staff of the Cox & King, who is our official partner for this program, Sunway Hotel staff and management, Tour Associates Tourland, Event Associate Aquasan Events, and more particularly our director company, entire staff, especially Natarayan from IT and his personal secretary Arun. And of course, all my company staff, especially my secretary Ravi, for the wonderful cooperation they have extended throughout. Now it's our pleasure to wish you all a very happy and prosperous New Year 2018. Thank you. Let us meet at Chennai next year. Bon voyage. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I think a standing ovation for Chairman Tina and Vasanthi Chandran also, please.
Friends, I also want you to applaud the personal aides for the RI general officers and senior leaders. Can you please stand up? The aides, and including Priyanka and Pramod, please stand up. They did a wonderful job. Friends, I want you to give a big clap for the personal aides. They have been And sergeants, one more round of applause for the sergeants. Sam, one more round of applause for the sergeants. And I also want you to give the one, we have non-Rotarians, Natrayan, Arun, Ravi, a team of people who have been working for last 1 month to put the visuals together, including Samir. Let's give them one more round of applause. These people really made it big. Thank you very much. Friends, I wish you very safe travel back home. I call Rotary Institute 2017 United Serve is adjourned.
Thank you, Director Bhaskar. Ladies and gentlemen, the lunch is served in both the halls, in either hall on both sides. So please enjoy the lunch. Have a safe flight back home and see you with a passion to serve at Rotary Institute 2018, Chennai.